We're going live, and we're live. With no problems, hopefully, tonight. I hope you can all see and hear me. Um, Thank you very much, as usual, for joining me. If anybody's out there, can you just give me a wee quick sign? Check that you can hear me all right. This episode tonight was really short, and it was really short for a reason. And that reason was really simply that a lot of this had to get cut, unfortunately. So we do have more on Liet Kynes coming along. Um, Brad says all good. Thanks very much, Brad. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. So we do have more on Liet Kynes coming in the ecology section, and we look at Liet Kynes and Pardot Kynes in a good bit more detail. So the reason why this is such a short chapter is that we're running a theme here, and it really is about the hero. I simply had to make a decision whether to cut Liet Kynes out entirely from my PhD or keep this little bit here on him and point to it down the road. So I had to lop out a fair bit of an analysis of Liet as a hero to the Fremen. But I think you got really the gist of it. I think we really went, because it was such a small section, I really tried to sort of make it tight to show how he is a hero to the Fremen. But we'll see how this applies with his father later on. So we do have a good bit more on Liet Kynes. It's just because we're running at this thematically. Most of what we have on him will be later on in the ecology section of all of this. So at the same time, there's a fair amount there, and about, I think the wee video was just short of 5 minutes, but it was I had to absolutely chop and change so much and edit out of this, guys. So that's why it is a short video. But as I said, there's more to come with it. And oddly enough, as much as all of these things are sort of run thematically, and we set them up in terms of chapters and stuff, I have put all the work together in the kind of complete chapters, so that you can look at all this together in one thread. And that's what we call the deep dives on the station. We removed all the music from the end of each episode, took all of the footnotes, etc., and just put them all at the back. So if you want, whenever you're finished with these, it's possible to watch them all together, kind of uninterrupted without the music, and then just have all of the footnotes for each chapter. But the whole thing's about 11 and a half hours long, I think. So there we go. So as usual, folks, thanks for joining us. And if anybody's got any questions about Liet Kynes, I think we've had a fair amount of discussion about this character since we've got going, really, because of the gender swap, particularly with, I'm trying to get if I can remember the actress's name correctly, I think it's Sharon Duncan Brewster, being chosen to play Liet Kynes, and we've had all sorts of nonsense about that kind of thing. And we've kind of discussed it from my own point of view. I do think it's a bit of an own goal. Because Liet Kynes is the one character that represents this Western man's ideals, Western man's systemic thinking, Western man's approach to ecology. And as much as we tend to think about Kynes in a good way, he's our ecological educator, particularly in the banquet scene. If you actually look at both him and his father in more detail, they're quite, they're using these people absolutely for their own ends. And the up to the point where Pardot's decision to have a child with a Fremen woman, so that he can better ingratiate themselves. So in that sense, Liet himself is, I don't know, a little bit like Ganima in some kind of ways. So it's to do with how, I suppose, that these two individuals not infiltrate, but ingratiate themselves within the Fremen, and off they go, really. It's where they point, the Fremen go, and they die, and so on. So here we go. If anybody's got any questions, comments on Liet, Dune, all things science fiction, anything at all, fire away. I'm always up for it. So Brad says, but as a metalhead, the music is my favorite introduction on YouTube that isn't for a metal specific channel. Seriously, Brad, do you think it's? I got a lot of grief over the music. And I'm not deaf, by the way, in I suppose in what most people would associate with deafness. I have a kind of bother with what's called negative pressure. So, but my band, thank you very much, was Happy Shrapnel, and the tune is actually it's actually our version of Fortunate Son by Creedence. So there you go, Brad. It's just the intro to the song, but they're I don't know. I think we have a wee. If you type in Happy Shrapnel, there's a couple of sort of very quick pseudo videos that we threw up to go with a couple of songs. It was actually done because somebody else put up some other videos that went with our songs that really weren't sending out a rather good message at all. But thank you very much. We've got a couple. You see, bottom line is in terms of trying to use a bit of music on YouTube, Brad, is that we did put it together a CD a long time back. We went into the studio and we produced a wee thing called A Little Piece of Shrapnel. And so we did 5 songs. And Happy Shrapnel were a charity band, basically go around raising money for charity and stuff like that. And we would take part in kind of things like the Northwest 200, playing to those kind of events. But we did a lot of charity work and around all over the place in Northern Ireland for a good few years. So that the philosophy of the band, Brad, was basically that we would play all sorts of kinds of music, but we would play it harder, faster, and louder than anybody else. And it's yeah. So sadly, we've cut our singer out. You don't hear our singer, so because we're not trying to give away any kind of ownership of the tune, but the music's original, if you like. It's our versions of it, and of course the back end of the videos, Brad, is that's our kind of guitar solo. So a lot the bang that makes people jump, that's our boom and in, if you like. It's our drummer doing his job really well, and it's just where it comes in, and that's Stevie Campbell doing the guitar solo there. So yeah, which is really good. So we do have a couple of other wee bits of music from Happy Shrapnel that would be unidentifiable by algorithm, put it that way. So I'm hoping to use them. They're both we've got a good couple of wee sort of some stuff similar to the end at the end titles, Brad. So the only band you know of Northern Ireland from Northern Ireland is Therapy, Brad. I believe one of the guys from Therapy went to the same school as me, if I'm not mistaken. But wouldn't have been in my year, even a few years before me, I think. Which is, I'm not trying to remember who it was. Which one? Might have been. Is it Fife? Maybe, I can't remember. My memory is terrible with bands. But yeah, Teeth Grinder, isn't it, Brad? That's their big hit, which was pretty good. I got Teeth Grinder, and yeah, they were good. Are they still going, Brad? I don't know. I've lost touch, as I say, in a lot of things, But yeah, they're not a bad band at all. It's kind of early 90s, really. We're talking, aren't we? But yeah, I think I went to see them actually in London. Once upon a time. It was yeah, funny thing actually. I can't really trying to remember that gig. It must have been early in '92 or '3, I think. But there you go. But thank you very much, Brad. I was being asked actually the other day, what are these videos re-uploads and so on, and I was saying, yeah, kind of they are, but that we've remastered the sound on them, and I said at the end of it, because of my hearing problem, it was actually going way past the limit, I suppose, the spiking on the headphones, and a lot of people I didn't realize were listening to this on headphones, and it actually hurt I got an industry professional, Brad, basically telling me it was damaging to people's. It was painful. It was hurting. Excuse me. So that's kind of why we remastered it, and because I'd taken the music off, and Happy Shrapnel, believe it or not, Brad, the band are kind of something to do with the PhD. So they're kind of, yeah. There's a bit of a story behind my PhD and what happened afterwards, and they're very much a part of it, believe it or not. So that's why we use the music. I think in my original PhD, there is a dedication to the different people in my band, So yeah, there you go. But it was good to get the levels right, and I had somebody complaining again about it, but they're going, "Oh, it's so loud," and I go, "No, it's not actually. I know exactly what level it is," and so the end music now comes out at the right level. And see with everything, the music at the start and my talking as well. So we've got it all nicely balanced, and we added subtitles to it. Really did, to kind of make it a bit more accessible. But there you go. It's kind of because I wanted the music back in, Brad. Um, Brad says, yeah, the album Trouble Gun is power pop with dark undertones. Yeah, I don't have any dark. I used to have that on tape, I think, a long time ago, if that's what it's called, Trouble Gun. But yeah, there's another band around at the time, Brad, I think would have been The Almighty, which I think are sort of Northern Irish, if I can remember rightly. I know the lead singer is, but I'm thinking maybe the guitar player was from Wales. Maybe I just one of them wee mixes. But I think it was a Ricky Warwick, wasn't it? Don't know if you remember them. There was a wee long time, Brad, in Northern Ireland where you just couldn't go to see gigs because of a couple of things that happened here. Most bands simply would not travel to Northern Ireland, and it kind of started to end in the late 80s, which was great. So I really, just as that age of sort of being a kind of teenager heading into adulthood, I got to go and see an awful lot of bands in Belfast around that time, and I went to see Nirvana, for example, and just a few years prior to that, you wouldn't have had a chance to see bands like that, and I really used to really enjoy the gigging up around Belfast and so on. It's a bit different if you're trying to gig yourself. It can be quite of an awkward thing sometimes. Um, but there you go. Yeah, Therapy, Blast from the Past. So I don't know. The Almighty weren't bad. They were a kind of rock metal band, but I always thought they were a bit kind of, I don't know. I went to see them. They were quite good. I think I remember seeing the Black Crows on the tour of their first album up in Belfast, and trying to think who else actually. I want to see Izzy Stradlin and the Juju Hounds. There we go. Here we go. Another question from Brad. Okay, thank you, Brad. Let's see. I have a question about yesterday's episode. Why would the Emperor and the Baron put the Atreides on the most important planet in the universe rather than subsidizing another planet to make Atreides economically obsolete? That's a really good question, Brad. In fact, why bother? In fact, I suppose here's the point. Within the power plays of the universe, we can argue that the Harkonnen and the Atreides are dangerous. So why doesn't the Emperor just put a house that's on Arrakis that he can absolutely control, that are, mid-level Landsrad, that are sheep, basically, but he's got these two. Yeah, it's a good question. Why would it's the power plays to get rid of one of them, I suppose. And from the Baron's point of view, I suppose the object is then whichever one of, I mean, the Emperor's kind of behind the movement of all of these things, Brad. So the whole point is that both the Atreides and the Baron and the Harkonnens are making a power play for the throne, and it's being done through genetics, if you see what I mean. Now, in terms of the goal, if you think about having Arrakis as one thing economically, it's much better to be on the throne, isn't it? All taxes come to you, no matter what. So the power play really is for the throne. And the other thing is, you get the sense that when the Atreides are there permanently, the Baron doesn't move to Arrakis permanently, because that means never being able to leave. And I think, and if you think about it, they're setting up their piece on the big treasure pot, if you like, and they're not going to be able to move from it. So it's the political military equivalent of putting your back against the wall, which is stupid. But then maybe they say like a cornered animal fights better, that kind of thing. But immobility, I suppose, is the problem. So that's why the Atreides should never have moved really there. But I'm assuming that once he's using the Baron to wipe out the Atreides, if I was the Emperor, then my next goal would be to wipe out the Baron. So pretty much, and I think the Baron knows this, and he has to kind of move in a certain way that it's not going to be him that will get, but it's all about putting Fade on the throne, So that's what another planet to make the Atreides economically obsolete. I think in terms of the rest of your question, Brad, I think every planet's got its thing, if you see what I mean, within the universe of the Imperium, and the Guild facilitates that trade. So in terms of resources, Arrakis has got sand and melange and worms and so on, but water I suppose, and you've got that ultimate juxtaposition, but we get the sense that Caladan is a planet rich in certain things, um, based on that environment, I suppose. So I'd imagine every house in the universe, their economy is based on a kind of planetary economy that goes out into a larger kind of the guild and so on. So yeah, as I said, you start thinking about these things and it becomes. And as we said yesterday, we talked about Leto can remove all threats to his house by, apart from the Canley with the Harkonnens, by simply marrying Jessica. At that point, the Emperor wouldn't consider him a threat. So the Emperor feels threatened, I think, and that's why he acts in a way. And he has the Landsraad to deal with it. And the setup with the Landsraad is if the Emperor stomps on any one house, the collective Landsraad's meant to act together. It's one of those things that's tied into the Atreides myth, is to do with all the way the different Greek kings agree to defend whoever marries Helen of Sparta, if you see what I mean. So I hope that answered your question, Brad. I'm going to run just to see that we have a whole bunch of things turned up here on the text. So let's just catch up with everybody. BBP, hi. Oh, hello everyone that's joined us, by the way. Atreides was a threat to the galactic throne. Absolutely. Yeah, and a very obvious one, I think. Channel Mao says, evening, just jumping in briefly, but to add my little to the question, isn't Arrakis meant to be viewed as a backwater, albeit one with lots of resources, but metaphorically equivalent to being exiled to an African colony around a cultural center like Paris? I've been to Paris. Well, I suppose it's power and the wealth. I mean, you get to see that Paul rules the empire from Arrakis rather than from where is it that House Carino are based? I can't remember. Is it Kaitian? So I mean, I'd say that the Atreides can leave Arrakis because you can take the spice with you, if you see what I mean, as long as you have enough spice. But if anyone else was, that's the problem. So the Atreides set up on Arrakis in a way that's stupid, in a kind of way. It might be better to run the place from a space station, if you see what I mean. I don't know. I think there's lots of flaws in how the Atreides go about things. But the Emperor's definitely being reactionary. Let me just catch up, folks. Let's see. Kick back and then let them destroy each other. The Bene Gesserit probably prevented that, but make them economically weak does the job. Yeah, I mean, the Bene Gesserit have concerns about certain genetic lines being destroyed. So just very quickly, I'll jump back to you, Channel Matt, just to make sure I answered your question because it was running and I think I missed a wee bit of a thread of it. Being exiled to, no offense, African colony around a cultural center like Paris. The Landsraad presumably doesn't see Dune as a vital place, as we later learn it is. I think economically, Arrakis is the equivalent of something like the Middle East in terms of oil, if you see what I mean. But it's the nature of the planet that if you're there for any given time, breathing in the air, you're not going to really leave, I suppose. So the Atreides move is an all-in back, but with their back against the wall. I don't know if it's hard to see anywhere as being a backwater, if you see what I mean, with the guild and the whole travel without moving kind of thing. I'd say everywhere's equidistant to everywhere else unless you get cut off by the guild. But yeah, it's very much a part of the old a lot of jokes about. Also, I was running a kind of Father Ted there thread in my head. Channel Mal, I'll not go there. Sorry, folks. I'm sometimes very bad at finishing sentences. I tend to run different sentences in my head, and I stop speaking out loud, which is not for me. I know what's going on up there. It's not very helpful for your benefit, so I'll try not to do that. BBP says Atreides has support in the Galactic Senate. Harkonnen's not well liked. Colony made of gold. The Landsraad presumably doesn't see Dune as vital a place as we later learn it is. I'd say that most of the Landsraad doesn't have any given house in the Landsraad doesn't have much power, and the Landsraad's power is as a collective. if you see what I mean. So within Dune, the Landsraad's kind of meant to act as a, as much as it's a representative thing, it is still a feudal. It's a representation of. It's kind of like a parliament of lords, but that's it. They don't represent the people in any way. And the idea is really that it's meant to act as a balance between, I think, the emperor and the guild. But if the emperor acts in a particular way against one house, the united houses of the Landsraad are supposed to step in, and they don't. And that's the thing. I think at the end of June, I'm still reading it myself, but Paul ends up having a legal case. I'm pretty sure, if I remember it right. I'm just at the bit where Alia and Hara are talking about Alia, so I haven't got there. But I'm pretty sure he talks about, as part of his strategy for the throne is a legal argument to be put in front of the Landsraad. And I think he has the Landsraad kind of backed into a corner because they didn't act to save House Atreides. And really, the whole point is, that point on for the Emperor, all of the other houses should be nervous of him and the Harkonnens, which is not a good thing, really. You'd really just want your citizens being quite happy and paying tax, don't you? Let me just catch up a wee bit, folks. Let's see. You hope so. BBP, it's an occupation. BBL. Okay, I'll wait. Howdy, y'all. Sorry, just be back later. Okie dokie. I think that's what that means. Babs says hello. Howdy, y'all. Hi, Babs. How are you? Keeping well. Hope. Thanks for joining us. If you've got any questions, Babs, fire them away. We're just sort of chatting as usual, all things Liet Kynes, and really been kind of talking about the whole political setup with the Emperor and the Landsraad, and the nature, I suppose, of Melange and how it keeps people there. Yeah, it also suggests, I suppose, why the Harkonnens have to leave so many people behind. If you're working there, I don't know. There's lots of that doesn't make sense, isn't it? There's also spice miners that I think Leto sends Gurney to. That that they're about to leave, and and it's Gurney's to convince as many of them as possible to stay for the Atreides. So things don't quite make sense if you understand that. That the melange addiction works on some levels for people within the Dune universe, and I think Frank actually, it's just probably just forgetting this here and there, but it's a good example of having a group that are supposedly not are able to come and go from Arrakis, people who mine it. But interesting. BBP says family atomics. There are major and minor houses. Didn't houses also have shares in Chom? Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's if you actually, I was having a wee look at this in terms of wealth. What is wealth? Why does the Baron do everything? And is it for melange? And no, it's melange equates to wealth, which equates to money and Chom company directorships. But it really is fundamentally about money at the end of the day. And the basis of that money pretty much is many things, but fundamentally the real the real super commodity of the empire of a thousand worlds is melange. And you'd want some too, wouldn't you? If you hey, this stuff will stop you getting old. You'd be down to buy that, like a ton of whatever. If you see what I mean. Brad Rose says, but it wouldn't be too hard for the emperor to bankrupt or weaken any single house over the long term with his dark economy and it being untraceable, surely. Yes, but also the guild can do that too, can't they? As I said, isn't it that meant to be that tripod of preventing different things? The one aspect of the tripod is meant to stop the other two falling, and Herbert talks about this tripod structure a lot, and I think he's heavily based on the United States system of government and representation. But yeah, you can cut a planet off just simply by not having access to the guild. For non-Fremen, it's about the amount of spice ingested, says BBP. Yeah, that's what I thought. But it's in the air, isn't it? So if you're and again, it's given that it's the saturation of it. Once you're on the planet, it's in the air, it's in the food, it's in the water, it's everywhere. But actual, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't quite make sense. BBP, if you see what I mean. Brad Rose says, Chom is the check and balance for power that makes everyone better off or to be rejected. There's more value than just the spice. Whale fur. That's the kind of thing, Babs. Yeah, it's the planetary commodities we were talking about. Stones, punji rice, etc. Because and you kind of get a sense from this. They talk about the economy of Caladan. You see, so the Duke Leto Atreides is quite well respected. That it seems that their planet is rich in terms of natural resources, and they haven't plundered or wrecked their planet. You kind of get that sense from the idea that maybe Gidi Prime's very industrial. Pardon me, but again, I mean, it's the contrast of that we're presented with Paul being on Caladan and then going to Arrakis, and it's almost a literal fish out of water, if you see what I mean. And but that the rolling seas correspond to that the kind of rolling dunes of Arrakis. Water, water is a big part of this book, and it's used as it's not just melange, it's water as well, and it depends. That's a good example of what's worth more too, But water is life on Arrakis. So yeah, no, I don't think it's hard. Going back to what Brad said, for the Emperor or the Guild to weaken any one house, and the implication with the Landsraad is by proxy. Therefore, the Landsraad as a collective have the ability to do the same thing to put in check the Emperor or the Guild. But I think that, yeah, if you think that they're all scattered over different planets and stuff, I think the Guild can pull the plug on that idea very quickly, if you see what I mean. And I suppose that's really about that. I suppose the things don't work the way that the checks put in place, and the checks and balances put in place within that tripod system don't work. And I think the tripod system in America with Trump, you've seen that happening between the different bodies within the government and the office of the president itself. I think that what is it? Is it in America? Is it a Senate and the House of Representatives? Is that correct? I don't know much about American democracy, and I think the third part of their, I might be wrong. Somebody could probably correct me. In fact, I'm sure I'm wrong. But the third part of that tripod is the office of the President of the United States. If you see what I mean, and it's supposed to work in the same way. Any one part of that tripod should be able to stop any two of that tripod should be able to stop any one of the three, if you like, from taking power. I think, which is a false conclusion. I think. There we go. Brad says it seems to me that Dune is the only planet that has a non-transferable resource, the spice. Interesting point, Brad. It is a transferable resource, so they can ship it, but you can transplant the whales and do what somebody has done to Arrakis. It's just that nobody's figured it out. If you see what I mean. So in theory, you should be able to take a sandworm to a planet full of water is really what you want. Not you figure this out eventually, I suppose, if you see what I mean. So there is a means, but the sandworm, somebody did it in the beginning to Arrakis. Arrakis was not a desert planet. We're told it had seas, but massive seas and oceans. And that the worm is a transplanted species. And because of what they do to water, that's why Arrakis is, and they do it real fast, apparently, as well. The desertification process goes real quick with it. So it is possible, but just it's part of the mystery. I suppose what we want to know in the Dune universe is how long has humanity been using melange? I think we're not told that. It's the Empire of 1,000 Worlds. We're at the year 10,191. We can run that thread in the time frame that's presented with Herbert from the Paul Atreides on Arrakis to the Butlerian Jihad to actually Samuel Butler's Erewhonian kind of prediction, all the way back to the House of Atreides. We can date them pretty easily. So we have a time frame, a massive time frame within the Dune universe. So I've always wanted to know when does melange pop up, if you see what I mean. and it's probably been answered in by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. I'm sure they've gone and looked at the genesis of Arrakis or something like that. If they haven't, I thought that would be an obvious book for them to write. Genesis of Dune. There you go. By Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. Is that we start coming up with titles for books that they haven't written yet? Oh dear, it's terrible in here, folks. I'm sorry, I have to say this. My big dog has farted really badly and it's stinking. I've got both of them in here. Oh dear, that's just harsh. Oh dear, excuse me. I'm going to let it cigarette just to not just to take away the smell. That's horrendous. I do apologize. Oh dear. So let me just catch up, folks. So yeah, I think it is a transferable resource, the spice bread, but nobody's figured it out. From going from Caladan of many natural resources of value to Arrakis of just one, hydraulic despotism. Do and should, says Brad. House of Lords vaguely, Senate, House of Commons, House of Representatives, kind of. Was I roughly on the right boat? Yeah, we have in Britain we have a house. Well, we're in Northern Ireland, so it's a bit weird now. But the House of Lords and the House of Commons over in the UK Parliament, we have a devolved government, and then so we have representation kind of locally, and then over in the UK Parliament, which still actually issues laws and edicts over here whenever we're not doing what they want. And then we have also got interference from the Irish government, interference from the European government at the moment. So I don't know at all. And we would have European elections, local elections, and UK elections. So it's all bonkers. Should, says. Brad says they had tried to move worms and they always die until it worked. That's right. So non-transferable resource production. It'd be stupid to have something so valuable only produced in one place if you could spread it. Oh, totally agree. Risk of my own. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket is the thing there. And yeah, well, that's it. Hydraulic despotism, as Bab's saying earlier. Once Paul understands it, if you can just cut it off, you can destroy it. It's the threat of the destruction, I suppose. And at that point, you have to think. I would say that spice is a massive crutch for humanity. It's a very bad thing, I think. So yeah, I think they do get a worm off planet, don't they, Brad? I think, and maybe Children of Dune. I can't remember. But yeah, usually it's the worms get killed. I think it's all sort of the mystery of the worm and why nobody's kind of figured it out. That kind of thing. Chris says the idea that made America into a constitutional republic seems to have been specific to the time and place, and the men who drafted the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. I agree with this. I think one of the fundamental problems of government is it can't change generationally. And whenever we embed a set of this is how we will all be forever, we will go forward and never consider that the people who are our children might not agree with us, and their grandchildren, and that times will change. So constitutions, I think, are. I think constitutions, if you're going to have one, you should renew it every 10 years. But it's later than children. It makes the super spice. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, at some point somebody, and then they go for is it ultra spice or something like that? The artificial melange, that comes along later. And again, it shows you the drug evolving, And you kind of wonder if they've been able to alter, if you think about drug production at a chemical level, whatever they're doing, whenever they're creating this new artificial melange, it's to do with Gola tanks, isn't it? Axolotl tanks, sorry. And Golas and so on. I wonder, did they get rid of the fatal bit? If you see what I mean, do they work out this is remove the fatal part of melange? I think it was after the turn of the scattering, says Brad. Yeah, I think so. Well, that's a big plot point, isn't it? And all sort of things evolve in the Bene Gesserit books. We have the drugs evolve. And then you even have this new share, this new kind of drug as well. Brad saying, yeah, in the tanks, yeah. So it's within. I suppose that's the point we have. Uh, as you go through the 6 books, I think I was telling you I've got a kind of diagram on this, and it was I did an entire read of the 6 books to kind of get that life cycle of the worm as an introduced vector. But I think it is one of the mysteries. Where do the worms come from? I mean, we've talked about some of the wee mysteries around, around the books, where we're heading, and whether there's payoff for things that are sown and set up in the appendices. I think the appendices are really important in the first Dune book, and he doesn't provide us with appendices after that. I think that's an interesting thing a lot of people don't consider when you're reading the Dune series. All your info that you need to know, the kind of words that you need to kind of the multicultural language within Dune, that kind of thing. All the understanding of it is in the first book. So and it doesn't really expand on it, which is interesting. I think it would have been, it would have been interesting if each Dune novel had an appendix, at least one. But I think that the fact that there's those appendices in the first Dune novel are really, really important, and it's what they're pointing out. And as much as Frank's telling you a story, he's trying to do a few things. He's trying to warn you about heroes, about your political leaders, and systems, in particular, that are built up around these people. But he really is trying to give you an ecological message, and it's a backhanded one in a way. And it's the character that we're looking briefly tonight, Liet Kynes, is the deliverer of that message. Is the person that uses the ecological platform to absolutely take the Fremen to their doom. And again, we get a lot of people talking about the Fremen and etc. And we all love the Fremen. But a lot of, again, some of us have only got so far in the books. Guys, as I'm sure you know, some people will leave Dune at Dune and have no idea that they've been tricked. A lot of people, I think, get through Dune Messiah. Some think it's not mine, really, and get to the third trilogy. There are different jumping off points for some people in Dune, which is a shame because it really does keep revealing, keep talking, keep educating subtly. And it is, as I said, in terms of what he's trying to educate you with, that's why we have these reiterations. I think, as I pointed out recently, that repetition is a big part of education. So there we go. See, republics, I think, Chris, are the most easily subverted form of democracy. Don't know what you think about that. And all the dodgy ones are republics, aren't they? People's republics and stuff. Res Publius, isn't it? Resides in the people. It's an interesting thing. Plato's Republic is often called Plato's Republic, even though the word republic is Latin and Plato is a Greek. So that if you ever do read the Republic, a better title for it is On Government, if you like, I would say. The philosophy of government, maybe something like that. But the Republic's a misnomer, I think. There we go. So has anybody got any questions on Liet Kynes or all? This is the thing, very political book, Dune, very religious book. Dune, it takes us to some places, Brad says, my mates are all getting into Dune because I've watched your channel. I sit back quiet while they discourse over Dune, then clarify who got what right and back it with things they didn't mention. Thank you very much. That sounds fun, Brad. I have to say, folks, by the way, I was having a look at the videos that we have up there, just backtracking, and because I had a few wee bits of bother with things. But I must apologize if anybody's going back looking at either the live broadcasts or the episode. The default's on YouTube, and do you want to put an ad in? And I only kind of want one ad, but I was looking at the defaults. It's absolutely saturated my videos with adverts, like loads of them. So I've gone back and taken them all out, by the way, just in case any of you have it. What a thing to drive people away from your work. It's absolutely awful. So if anybody is checking the stuff out or anybody's had a look at it, I've sorted the ads out. A couple of videos had something like 16, 17 adverts on it. And I'm just going, oh my God, I want one. So yeah, YouTube's default is pretty full on, isn't it? So I must apologize about that. But yeah, again, the whole point is trying to make this stuff accessible and get people to check it out if they're Dune fans, Basically, you've made me the go-to man in my crew about all things Dune. Well, the good thing is, Brad, I suppose, is everything in this is reference to hell. So you've got not only with the info, but where it comes from as well. And that's great, Brad, because that's the whole point of this. It's to educate. And as I said, I put a lot of years into this stuff. For me, the only really appalling thing was that it was just buried and nobody was seeing it. So the more people see it, the more people get something out of it. And the more people that start to, I didn't see that. Because whenever I was doing this, that's the same thing for me. I didn't see half of this stuff. And the whole Butler thing, I'm just going, oh my God, what's this? I bet, oh no. The further I got into Butler's era one, I'm just going, uh-oh, my work's changing direction big time, and it's that kind of thing. I suppose some people approach a PhD thinking, this is my idea, this is the way it's going to be, and it's a really bad way to approach it. Your idea you should know X amount about what you're doing, but the whole point is to discover a whole lot more. And yeah, probably have to change your title a couple of times to see what you believed was true compared to what you actually have gone and found out. So for me, the whole finding a lot of this stuff out, I think it was as enjoyable for me and informative for me as when I discovered it. And as I tell you guys, I absolutely this is the chapter that was guillotined the worst. I mean, I know that. I mean, sorry, this sub chapter was very important for me to keep Liet Kynes in the hero section, no matter what. And I obliterated words out of this one. So it's funny because it's the shortest episode, and the next one, tomorrow's, is Paul Atreides, is the biggest one, if you see what I mean. So it's all about saving words, I'm afraid, which is a hateful thing to have to do. But no, I'm really pleased about that, Brad. It's the whole. There is a lot of stuff in Dune that it's not obvious that multicultural. As I said, I talk about the Irish myths, and people go, "Oh, I didn't see that," and so on. And but people talk about all sorts of stuff in Dune from all over the world. And the one that I enjoyed most recently was listening to the Jacurutu myth about the Jacurutu is a type of owl, and I think it was either a Southern American or Mesoamerican myth. And I was oblivious to that one. I thought, wow, that's another one, brilliant. And it's kind of got me wanting to kind of go and look at some of those South American and Middle American myths. Whenever we talked about the nature of myth being and certain things, I don't know if you saw that skull that's in the video, folks. I've given the photographer the credit. That's an archaeological artifact found very recently that changes our understanding of humans entirely. I would say in terms of burial rites and stuff. It's if you look at that episode with that child's skull, it's wearing a helmet that's made up of pieces of other older children's skulls. It's incredible. If you do a research into it, you'll find out all about it. It's one of the most recent. It's very recent. I put it in there really to show that whatever you think you know about cultures or mythology or whatever, have a look at something always changes your opinion. And it was brand new at the time when I put it in the video. It's a really spooky looking thing. There you go. So thank you, Brad. I'm really glad that's the whole point of it, if you see what I mean. Bob says, I'm similar. I'm half a fair of going to see the movie with a group for spoiling it. Yeah, I get told off by my wife a lot. I kind of point things out. Like I think I was talking about, we were watching the Green Knight the other night, and I was saying, "Oh, come on, let's watch." And I was trying to, and she's going to get it, and I think a lot of people don't get that the Green Knight's a Christmas story, by the way. And I've been kind of, I have to sort of point out, I've really got to shut up because I get told off quite badly. But I tend not to spoil the film, but I tend to go tangential with it, and but there we go. But yeah, if anybody hasn't seen The Green Knight, I highly recommend it. But if you watch the film, then go and find yourself. You'll find a copy of the Green Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, I'm pretty sure, on Project Gutenberg. So if you watch the film and you want to know what it's really about and how it ends, you can go grab the book and just read the ending if you're not into reading epic Arthurian poems. But it's a great story, great poem, and it is a Christmas story. and I don't think anybody got. I think nobody. I'm not sure anybody's got that at all. Chris says, I believe that it was Benjamin Franklin who said, "You have your republic if you keep it." Ah, if you can keep it. Babs is saying, I'm on the Erewhon train. Must understand Dune. Yeah, it's an eye opener, real eye opener to Dune. And as I said, changed my. I was 3 months in to my PhD when I read Erewhon, and I was simply I need to check what Butler is. What's this Butlerian jihad nonsense? Where does that come from? And I Samuel Butler, this book, and away I went, and I better read it. And not sufficient to get a glimpse of a book. You really need to read these things, and it just sent me flying. And no, at that point, Babs, I thought everything that was in Dune was actually very original and by Frank, and it really was the main reason why I was kind of touting him in a sense. It was why I got full funding for the PhD, and I was very surprised, and then actually Erewhon's very important in science fiction in general, and really important in the whole looking at evolution and how the public perceived it, and the push against it. It's a very, very important book, Erewhon. I love it. I think it's a great book. I've read it twice, and I wouldn't read it again at the minute, but I'd be very happy to read it again a third time, say a few years down the road, because I do kind of like Victorian kind of science fiction a lot. I'm a big fan of the golden fin de siècle fiction, if you see what I mean. Love that stuff, brought up on it. So yeah, Erewhon is something that went under my radar for a long time. Things like Vril as well. Vril's a good read. If you like things like kind of Journey to the Center of the Earth, you'll like Vril. Very much in the same mode. There we go. Brad says, I'm pushing so hard for my mates to watch you, but I'm ignored. I truly think they dig it. They just shut the fuck up and listen to me first. Fair enough, Brad, no worries. I don't know. I sometimes think it's the whole point is I hope it's not too highbrow for some people, and I think it's very important that the way I've presented it. Really, I think people go, well, PhD. I don't want to look at that. I'm not going to understand that, and that's actually a very bad misunderstanding of what a PhD is. It's just going to be detailed to hell, really. But the whole point is it should be understandable quite easily. I think part of the level of complexity with this is actually to do with Frank Herbert, not me. I could have wrote a much nicer, simpler thesis if it had picked different subject matter. So there you go. Bob says, Brad, try turning them on to Comic Book Girl 19, kind of a doorway to deep dive Dune. Yep. Babs, I'm the token blue collar in the group. They're all intellectuals, so they ought to be into this from the get-go. It's just getting them to try it for the first time. The blue collar intellectuals. I like your terms, Brad. I don't know. One of the things that I enjoy so much in life is that if you met me, most people do. You'll get a very, you'll not see me with my glasses on too much in public, but you'll get a very one-way impression of me, I think, which is quite false. And I don't cultivate this kind of thing. People come up with their own opinions, but intellectuals and stuff like that and all this stuff. A lot of people think, I don't know why, but a lot of people just think I'm quite stupid. And they have done for a long time, and it's gone back even professionally that people have just made up their mind about me because I've talked about one thing, and it has been a massive eye opener and a slap in the face to a couple of people for their own professional stupidity a couple of times when they haven't known who I was, and it's horrific. Some of the things that people, I ended up having. I used to represent disabled students. Against my own employer, basically. I don't want to really go into it, but this is a good while back. It's to do with what's called the Sendo Act over here. So it's to do with creating an even playing field for disability, particularly within the education sector. And there was a lecturer there who's just mouthing off about the disabled students and saying all of this stuff, an awful lot of negative things, pigeonholing people. This they can do, this they can do that, blah blah blah. And he thought that I was a scribe, basically somebody who's paid a couple of quid to come in and write notes down for people with dyslexia, and that's all he thought I was. And he had no idea the amount of work or the type of work that I did there. So I often provided learning support for some of my students and worked for the educational psychology department. So I was a lecturer, but I did a lot of other things and just kind of one of those people that dipped his hand in, if you see what I mean. And the things that he would say to me were horrific, and I just, but yeah, he found me on the other end of the table twice. And the first time he figured out what I was and who I was, and the fact that I was a lecturer, he had no idea I was a lecturer, and he was a lecturer in the same college as me. People see what they want to see sometimes, I think, but it's funny. But yes, anyone who describes themselves as an intellectual, I don't know. I'd like to put that word to the test. But it's good old working class fun, I think. You say you're the token blue collar in the group, brother. Have you considered changing your shirt? Grimdark says, just to catch up, Green Knight has some good visuals, but the screenplay is confusing. I need to rewatch it. It is a bit. It definitely was more about the inevitability of death and less about the chivalric values of the poem, says Grimdark. But yeah, I get what you mean. I detest it when people say, Brad, you're actually really smart. And all I can say is, yeah, what do you think of me before you just worked that out? Yeah, it's I understand that perfectly well. It's what they thought of you up until the minute that they, and it's an interesting thing, Brad. I'm an observer of human behavior quite a lot, and it's interesting, I think. But yeah, I don't know. People, I don't know how we look at people. We make Dune's a lot about this, I suppose, value judgments, if you see what I mean. And it's a bit like within like ethics and morality. I remember being up with an ethics board in the university, and I asked them all, how many of you studied ethics? Because I have. If you see what I mean. No, seriously, put up your hands and tell me what's your ethics. What have you studied? None of them have studied ethics at all. Yet they put these to, that's what university ethics boards are. There's a bunch of people who have no idea, never studied ethics in their life, and they get together and decide they're ethical and then go about doing unethical things. Oh dear, oh dear. But people make up their own minds, I suppose, is what I'm saying. They don't have enough information. And something like ethics, if you want to say that something's right and something's wrong, something's good and something's bad, where does that come from? Axiology, isn't it? That's where you get your study of value judgments. So you'll find a lot of this in Greek philosophy and so on. If you want to say something is good, well, what does that actually mean? What does it mean to be good? It's a bit of politics. We say it's about happiness. Eudaimonia is the word. It's good spirit. So I don't know. It's funny that, Brad, but I actually it depends on how you feel about it. But I, as you say exactly, but I particularly enjoy it when people underestimate me, and they do it mightily. And I'm now very badly pigeonholed. Simply put, because of where I live. That's it. So if I get stopped by the police or anything like that, my driver's license will make them think, no matter what, that I am X, Y, and Z, if you see what I mean, and they'll be wrong. And this is a thing that happens to be in Northern Ireland. We have a thing here, Brad, I'll tell you about. It's called the tell. Have you ever heard of this? It's a thing that Protestants and Catholics do in Northern Ireland to figure out if you're a Protestant or a Catholic. Have you heard this before, anybody? It's a linguistic thing. It's simply depending on how you say something. These people will assume that you're either Catholic or Protestant and operate from then on, just based on one or two words. And I have enormous fun with Catholics and Protestants because of this, because they will think I'm a Catholic or a Protestant. They'll always get me wrong. And I've actually had a bit of fun at set. You can set them against each other quite, but it's kind of stupid. And so that's what the tell is. It's like if you say Derry, it means you're Catholic. If you say Londonderry, you're a Protestant, for example. And I would say, and people get into trouble with this kind of thing over here on the TV, because if you're, I suppose, if you're a Catholic, you're supposed, they want it to be. This is the way it's presented anyway. That you're if I say Derry, then you have to say Derry as well. And the Protestants will go, oh no, it has to be Londonderry, and it's incredibly stupid. I call the city of Derry Murder, Death, Kill 2, and I call Belfast Murder, Death, Kill 1. If you see, if you see what I mean, and that's just my spin on it. But that's what the tell is. It's simply here you can use a certain word, and to pretty much everyone it will identify you because they're that they only see each other. No, nothing else exists except Protestant and Catholic. That they will identify you as such. So I'm often there. You go. It's as simple as that. People mislabel each other all the time. But whenever I used to move about schools a lot as a kid, the main thing that my dad brought up to me is that we lie about the religion. So we actually, all the records in Northern Ireland, if you go for employment, if you don't put down what religion you are, they just go to your school records. And so consistently, myself and a certain group of people would have lied throughout the years, and our parents, on those school records. So if you even go to my primary school records, they're complete nonsense. A lot of people don't know this, but that's what's called the tell, and it's an incredibly stupid thing because it's what I talk about. There's only A or B, and it's why it's one of those reasons that you'll never hear about anyone else talked about in Northern Ireland who's not Catholic or Protestant. They're 1/5 of our population's got nothing to do with it, and basically both. I suppose both sectarian populations are now minorities. They're 2/5 Protestant, 2/5 Catholic. 1/5 of our population is nothing to do with them, but we have zero representation. And even the media only talks, the BBC in particular, there's the Protestant, the Catholic, the Unionist, the Nationalist, the Republican, the Loyalist. So it's a lie that the media put out, and it's product of empire, product of the BBC for a long time, and you'll see it talked about out there within other news corporations because the BBC is kind of often the source, and so generally that's how the entire representation of Northern Ireland is entirely Catholic and Protestant is a lie, and it's been a lie for a long time. But the problem is that's it for us, for anybody who's not within that grouping. And in fact, you'll find hence an awful lot of Irish people, Northern Irish people, emigrate and get out of here. Just go. Well, there you go. But it's sorry, went off on a wee bit of one there, guys. But the whole labels and stuff like that always thinks. Grimdark, I'll just back up to you. You're saying it had some good visuals, but the screenplay is confusing. I need to watch it. Inevitability of death, and less about the chivalric values of the poem. That's what I say. It's a Christmas story. So it is about chivalric values in particular. Gawain's a particular knight, and he represents a particular thing, I think. But you don't get the green sash as well. Is a thing to do with all of the knights of the Round Table. So the sad thing about it, Grimdark, is it's not explained. It leaves you to think, I wonder what happened. But if you grab the poem, you can go find out, I suppose, is what I'm saying, So we'll just catch up here. Brad Senex said, I'd have liked it if the Beast actually had his own sly pan, was faking the meathead thing. No. The Beast, we've jumped ahead probably a bit there, guys. Let me catch up. I had a boss, he always had a book in hand, played rugby union, so a better class than a rugby league person, like me, until I slammed him for reading Danielle Steele when I was reading Crime Against Humanity by Jeffrey Robinson QC. That's just an interesting thing, pigeonholing people and systemic thinking, isn't it? But I've enjoyed the fact that I don't fit into people's categories, and I'm often categorized by something else. That's kind of why I was telling you that story about the tale, you see. And almost exclude, pretty much something over my entire life is that Catholics think I'm a Protestant, Protestants think I'm a Catholic. But within both sides, they tend to think I'm a policeman for some reason. I always get, are you a cop? The level of paranoia within both communities is incredible. So it's best just to avoid them. But I get asked that a lot. Am I a cop? Am I an undercover cop or something? And I don't think I look like one at all. But I certainly don't behave like one. So I don't know. It must be something to do with attitude or something. But it's weird. Grimdark says Gawain's ashamed he'd still held the green sash in the poem. In the film, he discards it, where the Green Knight praises him for his bravery. There's 3 strikes against the Green Gawain, and it is a Christmas. It's a Christmas story, and it's a story of the beheading game. It's not the beheading game. It's a trading of blows, I suppose. So everything that Gawain does is wrong, pretty much in terms of knightly virtue, shall we say? But he's not a knight. You have to understand this. This is kind of this like a knight errant, a squire type. This is what he does to become a knight. Hmm. I'm just trying to figure out should I just tell you what happens or not, but I don't want to spoil it. But it's not in the film, so I don't know if I can spoil it. That's just exactly what an undercover operative would say, Chris. Yeah, I get that a lot as well. Mm, yeah. I have a long history with the police in Northern Ireland. Long history with them. I know an awful lot about them, but I'm not one of them. Never, and I would never be one of them. I can tell you some very interesting stories, but I'm actually thinking on keeping them for something else. I'm actually thinking about making a few videos about Northern Ireland, possibly, because it's the 100th anniversary. And don't know about that, but I originally was going to set up another wee station, like it was a political thing, but I don't know. I just couldn't be bothered with engaging with the politicians and the system in this country anymore. People want the system to change. I want the system ripped out, thrown out, put in a bin, burnt, and brand new, something new for the 21st century. Is kind of what I want, but you can't always get what you want, can you? But yeah, undercover operative. I suppose I don't know. I find it very funny. So yeah, sorry about the wee rant. I should not talk about Northern Ireland, should I, folks? It's just generally not a good thing. But I am interested in all things kind of political, if you see what I mean. But even politics is, I think, a bad word over here, you know. So, folks, there we go. If you've got any more questions, all things that's the thing, I suppose. I was chatting about this with my wife, and she said, "Just be careful about what you talk about." And I pretty much said that I can't help it, because Dune. What is Dune about, and what am I going to talk about when it comes to talking about Dune? So we're going to be talking about politics. We're going to be talking about religion. We're going to be talking about drugs. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things, gender. And I sort of seen this in a few people's, just initially, when some people just want to talk about a subject that they're scared to. They don't want to say the wrong thing to offend people. And I think that's kind of a wee bit sad, I suppose, but the thing is, that's the thing. These topics take us. Dune is a book that will take you to so many places, and arguably it takes us to topics like genocide, um, evolution. So if it's a book where you got to have a wee bit of, I'm prepared to talk about this a wee bit, because it is hard to understand sometimes. Gawain's ashamed that he still held the green sash in the poem, while in the film he discards it. The green knight praises him for his bravery. It's really to do with the gist of who Gawain is. Really, is the very final moment in where he returns to the court of King Arthur, and it's what he says to everybody, I suppose. And the green sash ends up representing something to the Knights of the Round Table. My favorite Arthurian thing, and I actually years ago wrote a kind of science fiction short story about it. And I'm thinking on returning to it, possibly trying to write it. But it was kind of a short science fiction short story based on the Lady of Shalott. So that's and I like a lot of Arthurian stuff, and I've got Chrétien de Troyes and stuff like that out there. So I'm well invested in the Arthurian world, in the matter of Britain, But my favorite just going to say, what is it really? I was just thinking about my favorite Arthurian thing is the Lady of Shalott by Tennyson, and it's not it's a modern work, if you want to call that. I wouldn't call it part of. Well, I would actually, because it's to do with King Arthur. So anything to do with King Arthur is called the Matter of Britain. But I love the Lady of Shalott, and I don't know if any of you know this poem or the base point of the story, but it's I love it. Yeah, I kind of wanted to rewrite it, a bit derivative of me, but I kind of had a different version of it. Let's have a wee look and see. I already had enough friends enroll in the Police Academy. These are topics that need to be addressed, says Maz. Yeah, cheers, Doc. No problem at all, Maz. I'm one of those people that was very happy to. I'm a very kind of dark person. My wife and myself have incredibly dark sense of humor that my son finds quite appalling. Actually, my son kind of had a wee bit of a chat with me recently over doing. He was very upset with me because of the A Boy and His Dog video. Um, hmm, it's the topic really, and he wasn't too sure. I kind of had to say to him, I teach this stuff, and I kind of had to reassure him it was okay that if I'm writing about all he's hearing is that the perception that this book's about rape, and I'm kind of trying to tell him that I was trying to correct the perception of the book that comes from the film. I was trying to do a wee bit of good, if you see what I mean, the way I looked at it. But yeah, so some people might freak out about some topics, Grimdark says, I don't agree all art is political, but Dune is definitely one of the most politically charged works out there. The Idylls of the King from Tennyson are great. Absolutely. Yeah, I've read a lot of Tennyson over the years. I like Tennyson. I'm not a fan of him as a propagandist, but I really like Tennyson. I always have. I've got a couple of just really old-fashioned books, just little collections, and I love them. And I've been reading them since I was a kid. For some reason. So yeah, if anybody hasn't read them, The Idylls of the King from Tennyson, just get a good wee book on Tennyson. The poems are excellent. The only thing that offend me are people who follow any line and people who have a look after number one attitude. Apart from that, discourse is a valid way to learn new things. Absolutely. David says, hello again, everyone. Hi, David. Thanks for joining us. Brad saying hi to David. So, David, if you're just joining us there, we're just having a chat. Liet Kynes was our very short episode tonight. We're just having a wee quick chat about just the different topics that Dune can lead us to, because, and that we shouldn't be afraid about chatting about them. I suppose that some of them are things that people may feel a bit tippy-toey around. I'll put it this way, guys, there's a saying here in Northern Ireland, do not talk about politics or religion. If anybody wants to visit Northern Ireland, by the way, I like to challenge that. Go ahead, talk to people about politics and religion, and you'll soon very quickly get to see what they're like, because everything else is a lie and an illusion. And that's why they tell you when you come to Northern Ireland, don't talk about politics or religion, because you'll see, if you do that, you'll get the impression that most people have of the Northern Irish. Oh, they're lovely people. If you do that, you'll soon find out very quickly that they're not. A guy threatened to kill me in Portstewart recently, last year. It's all with the police and everything. Person I thought I knew, and it was a matter of over Catholicism. He wanted to murder me. Insane. So there we go. So the point, sorry, just that's true, by the way. Within the last 2 years, I've had a Catholic threaten to kill me and a Protestant try to kill me. And that's just life in Northern Ireland. Interesting. I'm from Louisiana, USA. I can relate, says David. So yeah, it was just an example of topics. I'd actually like to create a poster for the Northern Ireland Tourist Board. Come and talk about religion. Come and talk about politics, and just put a few skulls up or something. I'm a bad man, but no. It's my point is exactly. It's the thing that some people just can't deal with certain topics or handle, and they're too offensive, or there's some sort of block, or even there's a real life experience often sometimes there that sometimes when you're talking to somebody about a topic, it's not that they're offended, it's that there's hurt, if you see what I mean. Sometimes we're all a bit hard to see that sometimes, I suppose, if you see what I mean. We're that busy concerned about, I've got the right to say something. It's just something we've said has hurt somebody really bad. But yeah, we should be able to talk about, if we could all talk about things reasonably around the world, then there shouldn't be any fighting really too much, should there? That's the way I look at it. So David, that's where we were at. We were just, because we wandered into the politics, religion, all sorts of things with Dune. So if you do have any questions, mate, fire them away, or any comments. Dune, science fiction, Liet Kynes, anything at all. I think there's a few people mentioned things like, as I said, I just checked some of these out recently. There are plenty of other Dune. Something that I really like, I think somebody mentioned, if I get it right, Comic Book Girl 19. I keep saying Comic Book 19. Comic Book Girl 19, and things like Quinn's Ideas, and there's Dominic with Film and Page. Who else is there? There's Nerd Cookies. And there's a whole bunch of them on the podcast, which I'm kind of still fiddling around with podcasts, trying to figure out. Just I don't have so little time really to learn about new things. You see, so one of the things I was saying is I love the Dune community online and the fact that there are reading groups and all sorts of stuff. And I think I'm at the more difficult end of it, and I think that's maybe what puts a few people off it. But my hope is that eventually people just sort of look at the thing and go, yeah, I can understand that. Why wouldn't it? And there's nothing. And the pictures, by the way, I think help enormously. So let's just catch up with it. We were talking a bit about Tennyson and so on. Yeah, Tennyson, we were talking about, what was that? The Idylls of the King and so on and so forth. That was, love King Arthur, have to say. Frank Herbert was a registered Republican, but Nixon solidified his distrust in government. Well, Nixon would do that for you. Would you buy a used car from that man? Oh, sorry about that, folks. That's my phone. Let me just quickly check in case it doesn't usually go off because I don't really know anybody. So that may be something. There we go. Sorry about that. Sure, Joe. Can you figure out where my message for you, sir, thing is from? Dear. Let's see. Well, yeah. Goodness, I mean, I think Nixon did a lot to erode trust in government, but particularly in America, I suppose we've had a long time for government for our trust to be eroded in government. I think, but America being more of a sort of modern country. Well, saying that, there's me talking. Northern Ireland's only 100 years old, for goodness sake, David says, one thing we could learn from the Bene Gesserit, a little more awareness on our emotional impact on others would go a long way. Absolutely. I don't know. It's one of the ways why I tend to deal with people. I'll go tug at them with their emotions, really, to try and get them to think, make them empathic, I suppose. But yeah, we could do with all of that. Yeah, my wife says, we all need to be a little bit kinder to each other. What's your take? Brad says, what's your take on the change with Liet Kynes as announced by the new movie? Again, sorry for my abysmal spelling, everyone. Don't apologize. You should just not mention the spelling, Brad, because I'm just reading this stuff out. If you see what I mean. But don't worry about typing. I'm typing over a cup of coffee and so on. And I have one of them split old ergonomic keyboards. If you see what I mean, I always type the wrong things. Every time I'm trying to type, people we do these wee things on Twitter to promote the science fiction station. I keep saying, "Would you grab a shuttle?" When I'm typing, I keep missing the U. I mean shuttle, but I keep typing shuttle and have to pop. But what's your take on the Liet Kynes as announced by the new movie? Right, I've talked about this. I'll recap for you very quickly, Brad. I suppose it's the right place to talk about this. In terms of race, I don't believe in race. So the whole thing to do with the color of somebody's skin is not a racial argument in any sense with me. And does it make any difference to the film? No, not the whole anything to do with skin colors are irrelevant, completely irrelevant. It's the gender swap with the Liet Kynes character that actually is very important. And it's because of what the Kynes character represents. So I think in terms of how the actress is going to deal with it in the film, I'm looking forward to seeing it. So my only concern about it is this. Frank has a very particular ecological message. It's his message, it's his book. And the character that delivers that is Liet Kynes. And the character that represents everything that's wrong with that message is Liet Kynes. And Liet Kynes represents Western man, not Western woman. And I know that that's a general term, if you like, but it is. We have to exclude the women from that because we're looking historically at groups of men that have done this. And so the real problem there is that Kynes is to blame. And in terms of gender inverting it, then this is what I see as the problem. A male scriptwriter who is part of a systemic thinking system, which is a movie making machine, has come up with this idea, thinking it better represents women. So it does in that sense. But what you're saying is that then the person that is really the ecological what's to blame here now is now the fault of a woman instead of a man. And that's not what Frank said. If you see what I mean, so it's an own goal for feminism by a man. If we want to say it's okay for women to be blamed for something that men did, that's creating an uneven playing field, isn't it? So I don't think so. I think it's an own goal, and I think it's, if you understand a lot of religions and how, particularly a lot of myths, and certain things are blamed on the woman, and then off we go. We talk about sort of Adam and Eve, these kind of things. Pandora and Epimetheus. It's a common thing. So actually, what's been the intent, I think, was maybe correct, but again, representation is about what people see on a screen, and I think Dune is a colorblind book, if you understand what I mean. So that's it. It simply depends on what is the character going to represent. And to be honest with you, in gender swapping it, so I now don't know, is the character of Liet Kynes going to be that message that Frank delivered, because it is a particular message, and we have Frank's own words on this, and you'll see them when we get there. It's I didn't have to go digging deep for this stuff. He's all over it. It's Frank says it's really important. This character represents Western man. Really important that this character is killed by the planet. Um, and how they're set up. If you read the history of the Kynes family on Arrakis, they're monsters. That's the way I look at them. Personally, as human beings, I think they're monsters. Mm. I would never treat people like that to achieve my goals. And I'm a good manipulator, if you understand. I know how to speak to people and get them to do things, but not like that. It's disgraceful. So that's it. It's about, do you want to blame all this stuff on a woman? Fine. And I don't think that's, when it is a man, I don't think that's a step forward for feminism. In terms of representation on the screen, what you see on the screen, I think a lot of the race arguments are to do with what you see on the screen, and they're, in particular, see, these arguments are old, and they should have been sorted long ago. So the fact that the race argument has emerged again, particularly in America, is baffling to me. When I thought 21st century, don't we all know that we're all Homo sapiens? So that's it. It's simply, if they're not going to run with what Frank's message is and what Kynes represents, then it doesn't matter. But if they do, then it does. I think it's an own goal. So that's as we have chatted a wee bit about this before. Excuse me, Brad. But this video is probably the right video to do it on. And as I said, we are going to have a much. I'm so sorry about this, but it is important to have the Liet Kynes as a hero here, just so that you can see the damage really later on from what Pardot sets going. And we will look at these two characters together in a good sized episode, actually. So it's the planetologists of Dune. It's right near the end. And so that's why we have so little in this episode, I'm afraid. But otherwise, I really look forward to seeing the actress's portrayal of Kynes, and that's so I'm curious, very curious, about how this is done. And again, we sort of said this. Hi, Karen, thanks for joining us. We sort of said this before. All of the Liet Kynes Pardot, or the Pardot Kynes thing, is a mini adventure in the appendices, and we're not going to get to see it on screen. It's almost like we talked about this. It's like a prologue to Dune, set 20 years, I think. Must be 20 years, more than 20 years. Otherwise, Kynes isn't very old. I must check that, but it's set. I'm reading through again, so I'm heading towards the appendices, and I'm particularly looking forward to hitting them again. As I said, we were just chatting earlier about there's no appendices in any of the other Dune books. So if you're wanting to check linguistic terms and stuff like that, you'll have to refer to the first Dune book. So there we go. It's interesting that nobody's ever, even with all the terminology and stuff, that you could release all the Dune books with updated terminology and little gazetteers, etc. in them. Excuse me. Pardon me. So there we go. So the shop. Let's just catch up with your comments, guys. So there we are. Chris says the shop staff always seem very happy to spend time chatting, which I enjoy. People tell us, though, why the bloody hell are you on holiday over here? Excuse me. I must have lost the thread there. Chris, the shop staff. Seem very happy to spend time chatting, which I enjoy. Is that people? Oh, is that Northern Ireland? Oh, yeah, absolutely. But did people did as the way the bloody hell are you going over here? As I said, Chris, did you ask them any of them about your religion or what their politics were? And that's my point. You'll find that there's something not happy. I don't know. As I said, this quick conversation went from a conversation to shotgun. Literally, I'm going to get my shotgun and kill you. That's how, just by talking about. I'll not even discuss what the guy was talking about. It was racist. It was disgusting, and I was just trying to kind of temper him a bit. This is a person that used to come to some of my charity events, and I said I thought I knew this person. Don't know him at all. Don't wish to know him ever again, actually. That's the thing about. Sorry, Chris, I got dislocated from what you were talking about a wee second there, but I did get it. But at the same time, I'm generalizing, aren't I? But unfortunately, every time I, this is the nature of being a misanthrope. You tend to think better of people, don't you? And it's the true nature of the misanthrope is that we're actually quite hopeful people. We wish people were better, but unfortunately, I do give people the benefit of the doubt and I get crushingly disappointed every time. So I retreat back into my misanthropy, It's one of the reasons why I don't raise money for charity anymore. I used to raise a lot of money for charity because the charities that helped look after my mum in the end. But I got sold to one of them, so I don't raise money for charity anymore. Everything's it's a bit like Erewhon, as Babs, Babs. We were talking about Babs is getting through Erewhon there. Everything's topsy turvy in this country, I think. Upside down. Fremen are swarthy and patriarchal, I believe. Yeah, I say they're patriarchal. Yeah, well, it's interesting. Patriarchal, matriarchal depends. It's one of those things that Northern Ireland, some people would think it's matriarchal, but matriarchal in the household, patriarchal outside and in the church, if you see what I mean. But the house that I was raised in wasn't not like that. If a character is explicit, physical descriptions is given in a book, I think the adaptation should find an actor who fits the look of the character as much as possible. I don't see why not. Yeah. And to be honest with you, Liet Kynes, I think the name is suggestive of Germanic or Scandinavian descent. From my understanding, I thought Max von Sydow as Liet Kynes was perfectly cast. If you see what I mean. I thought, that's right for that role, very much so. I think there is, I think there's more. Jessica's got bronze hair. I think the casting in terms of getting a character to look like the character is a bit more accurate, maybe, in David Lynch's Dune. Jessica looks more like how Jessica should look, I think. And certainly Leto and Paul have the look. Though Kyle MacLachlan's, again, he's trying to play. It's an older actor trying to play a slightly younger. He's a wee bit more physically bigger than he should be, I suppose. But he does play him well. You kind of get he's quite, you get he's a bit of a teenager at the start, but the transformation's pretty good. I think he's very believable. I think Kyle MacLachlan is. I think he's great as Paul Atreides. Absolutely brilliant. And I think I was saying the other day, I think, is it Alec Newman who played Paul Atreides in the TV series? And again, not quite cast. The hair's different, doesn't look like what we think, but I thought he played him really well. I thought he was great, absolutely brilliant in Dune Messiah. Really good once he got into it. And I'm looking forward to see how Timothy Chalamet deals with it. But he's got big boots to fill, if you see what I mean. I think both the actors that have played Paul Atreides so far have done a really, really good job, regardless of what you think about the TV series or anything like that. The actors themselves and what they brought to it, I think, were brilliant. So there we go. But yeah, I think some characters are very iconic physically, if you see what I mean. There's a look and a style to them, a feel to them. And you'll see this, by the way, guys, if you look at ancient pottery and so on. If you maybe some of you guys would look at some Greek pots and go, well, I wonder who these people are. And they all have identifiers, if you see what I mean. Heracles has his wee lion skin on his club that you can pick out. Odysseus has a look. If you see what I mean, you can pick these people out by their particular attributes, and that's from descriptions from ancient myth and things like Homer and stuff. So attributes of a character I think is fine. And at the same time, I think if you want to adapt it to a completely different society, I also think that's fine as well. I think Hollywood is Hollywood, and nobody put it this way: we don't pay attention. In this country, we don't pay attention to actors, directors, anybody like this that acts as a political mouthpiece. If you see what I mean, they're actors. And it would just people who read stuff and then act. So I don't set store in their great intellect or anything like that. If you see what I mean, I don't take advice from celebrities. And I think that's one of the big problems with celebrities is that people look to them for all sorts of things. Cult of personality, isn't it? Excuse me. So I do think, yeah, if why not? But see, the thing is, Grimdark. I'll tell you something. I'm something I really love. You put all this on radio. Bye bye all your nonsense. If you see what I mean. Bye bye all the race, what color matters not. And I'm brought up on radio. If you see what I love radio. And you would none of all of these arguments are pointless if we talk about let's put Dune on the radio. If you see what I mean. So it's almost a visual bias and some, but really it's a Hollywood thing, and Hollywood's pushing this, and it goes through social media and stuff. And as I said, even the terms racism, I think it's all very backward to me. And I don't know, it stinks of a different time, I think, but the fact is that both sides, whatever side uses the word of race. Race has become a positive and a negative thing, I think, now, and it's just a word that's bandied about without understanding. I think, but I don't know what you guys think. But if somebody is a different race than me, I'd love to meet you because I've never met another species of human being. Off the wall again, there, folks. Carol says, "How important is it that specific message, compared to however many other messages from the book, one might want to prioritize for a movie interpretation?" And hello, Karen. It's a good question. But in fact, it's a brilliant question. Thank you for that, Karen. I'll tell you what is how relevant is Dune, and this is the thing we really need to ask ourselves. It's super relevant right now, and in particular, what part of it is relevant the most? Well, the two parts that I see. In fact, there's very little in Dune that's not relevant, but particularly the environmental message, the systemic thinking, and how we're approaching. Humanity's in an existential crisis now, but humanity is always blissfully unaware that we're in an existential crisis all the time. If you don't understand that, it's the world can get anytime, and so particularly, I think the ecological message out there at the minute is wrong, and it's not a fix, and it's actually just we're just going to keep doing what we're going to do. So that's how I look at that message at the minute, and it's a systemic approach by we talked about this the other day, economists. So particularly the fact that these people are dangerous, and you should not take advice on how to run your ecological dreams or how to fix the planet. That's the message there, Karen, that should not be changed. And the Kynes character is the warning. It's the real first big warning. This is. It really, I'm not joking, guys. Read the appendices of Dune. I'll just tell you what. Hang on, have I got the book here? Possibly. No, so I'll not go chasing it out in the hall. But read that. Read the wee mini adventure, and simply look at it in terms of what Pardot and Liet do to the Fremen, and you'll see what I mean. But the ecological message, what the Fremen do ecologically, is wrong. And it's how they're manipulated. There's different manipulations of the Fremen. So there you go. He's just popping in to say hi. I'm going to watch your video. Oh, cheers, Ethan. It's only a few minutes, so you can pop in and join us. So that's that. Otherwise, dangerous leaders. Goodness gracious, Trump. Well, if you took the warning from Dune, Trump's not the warning, as I said. If you applied it to modern life, then you would take the warning as it's who's Herbert warning you against. The answer would be someone like Greta Thunberg. If you understand that, you shouldn't need to be warned about somebody like Trump, and I mean that. It's obvious. But by the way, this is not what I'm saying at all. By the way, Greta Thunberg, I think, is great. If Frank was pointing, what sort of person is this a warning about? It's about somebody rising to power on an ecological platform in a kind of form of messianism, and you can look at young Greta Thunberg in that way. I think she's spot on. I think she's got a good head on her shoulders. I think she's identified it bang on, and that's the problem for every world leader. I think at the minute She knows what's wrong. I know what's wrong, and they're not going to change. So the environmental message, Karen, is crucial, I think, right now, because we're in it for the species now, boys and girls. If you see what I mean. I'm a Generation X person myself. I won't be here. Um, I'm not bothered about what's happening to the people of the world. The world will be just fine. I will be bothered for whether my son can live in it and live in it easily. So it's a question of maybe, I don't know, but that's the particular reason why I'm concerned about it. I don't. If June is going to teach something, then and it's still I think the book can teach you this, and I hope the film will take people to the book and vice versa. If you see what I mean, but that's my real concern. That's like change, and I think changing the gender, never mind the whole color of the skin of the actress, nothing to do with it, but changing the gender, I think suggests that they don't understand, that people behind the film don't understand June certainly as well as I do anyway. But I think it's a critical mistake. Um, in terms of the ecological message, that's it. Otherwise, I'm really, as I said, and I'm reserving judgment, guys, because I'm telling you what I think from Frank Herbert's point of view and from the research that I've done. I haven't seen the new film. I haven't seen the actress in the role, and I'm reserving full judgment until I see it. I'm really looking forward to it, and I am keeping an open mind. But if Dune is meant to be an ecological primer, then the main thing it's warning you about is Liet Kynes and these type of men. And that's what I think is particularly interesting. So it's the right place to ask this question tonight, actually. I know we've covered this a few times, guys. Let me just catch up with your comments. I don't know what you think, by the way. But to me, otherwise, it doesn't actually matter at all in any way. If you were going to gender swap a character in Dune, I would have picked Stilgar because it's a more important character. And the role of Stilgar as a naib, whatever. Again, you have the male-female structure within the Fremen society, but I think it would have been less damaging, far less damaging to the environment. In fact, it wouldn't have done any harm at all if you gender swap Stilgar. I can think of loads of characters that you could gender swap that it doesn't actually make anything. But it's that one of all the ones they picked. Why Liet? Oh dear, personally. But I'm really hoping that the actress knocks it out of the park, and it depends on if we get the message in the film, I suppose. But I think the environmental situation is very, very bad, and it's going to get a lot worse very quickly. But major problems, heat. It's going to be so hot. People are, the temperature, and there's all sorts of knock-on effects. We're feeling it here, but actually, the heat here, it's not going to bother us. Ireland's usually a very wet, cold country, you see. So, there we go. I hope that answered your question. And I don't know what you guys think about it, to be honest. And feel free to put your opinions about it. And somebody, I think Karen said you've seen it and that the actress knocks it out of the park. I think, didn't you say, Karen, a few days ago? So I really am looking forward to that. Do you feel like, let's see, Dean says, do you feel like me that you are both a misanthrope and have a deep love of people at the same time? It's a constant tension. Well, no, it's why you're a misanthrope, I think. Yeah, I do like people. And I like individuals. I do not like groups, and I don't like any kind of mob. And I've been on the wrong end of, for example, the teachers' union over here. I had them all protesting outside the college once, and when I had to take my students with Down syndrome, most of them have Down syndrome, I had to walk around past them, and their behaviour was disgusting. And people who I thought were individuals behaved like a mob, and they're all lecturers too. And I gave them the biggest piece of my mind. And they used to treat me like scum because I wasn't a member of the union. And just to let them all know, if any of them ever watched, none of them ever asked me to join. I never once was offered an application. So I just did my job and looked after my kids. And yeah, very bizarre. I don't like mobs. I don't like group thinking. And I like individuals. I'm a multicultural guy. I'd love to meet people from all over the world. I don't care where you're from. The fact that you're not from here is what makes you interesting to me, if you see what I mean. I just like people. But yeah, I went to university initially in London, guys, and from never having lived anywhere outside of Northern Ireland to going into that multicultural diaspora, that melting pot of people. I met people from all over the world, from all different types of faiths, cultures, and loved it. loved it. People of different identities, different sexual identity, the whole melting pot, and I loved London for it. Hate London as a place; it's disgusting. The water tastes like dirt, and the air tastes like dirt, and you'll not notice it really if you live there. But we used to land in London, walk out there, go, oh, nearly throw up, and the minute you come home and you get your water, I'm like, oh my goodness, the water in Ireland compared to the water in London is just, it was literally, the drink of the gods compared to some turgid stuff. It's horrible. London's not a nice place, but a great place for people. I lived in Hounslow for a while, and I used to describe Hounslow was about 95% Asian, 4% black, and me. If you see what I mean. And I worked up at a place up at Heathrow, and very much got involved with particularly the Indian community down there, and knew people from all over the place, and get just to learn about them. And I ended up. I used to work with a Sikh, a Tamil Tiger, an Indian Christian, a guy from Java, a Scottish Protestant, myself as an Irish atheist, and all these different people. Just when I was that's what I loved about it. I ended up learning to play karum, and which is Indian pool, and yeah, no, I'm a person that would engage anybody culturally. What's great about where you can tell me all about it, because I don't know, and it's nice to meet people, and you see. The news media, that our governments make enemies of all of us out of other people. And really, it's just you meet a Russian person, that's not the Russian government. Russian people are lovely. You meet French people, that's not the French government. It's the same all over the world. Our governments like us to think that we're all evil and stuff like that, but it's just our governments. And my experience, I've never met somebody where we've been culturally kind of ignorant and not immediately kind of headed off and chatted away and had a great time learning about each other. And it is a great way to meet people. I think so. London, I actually really enjoyed London for that. Though I don't, yeah, but for other reasons, I think it's just a smelly place. It's just horrible. The air and the water is disgusting. But there's I suppose there's plenty of good things about London too. Don't get me wrong. But there we go. So yeah, in terms of your misanthropy and stuff, I do like individuals, and I do not like crowds of any kind, because they will operate like one, and that includes groups as small as things like the police. The police even think like that, So there we go. Yeah, Karen says, yeah, Kyle looks like an adult man to me. So yeah, he does. And he's not quite as small and slight as he's meant to be described, but he does have that kind of Paul Atreides look, if you see what I mean. And it's the 80s hair, maybe. I'm sure hair's coming up here in a minute. Dean says they have removed Jessica's red hair, but so have they removed the Harkonnens, so the significance is lost. Yeah, it's an obvious genetic pointer in the Dune, in David Lynch's Dune. I wanted to look something up today. It was to do with a name. No, but I can't find my good pen. What's that? Oh, I must have a nosy. There's my ink pen there. And I must have a wee look at it. Something that I don't know what it is, but I'll have a look at it again. Let's have a look then. Catching up. Timothée Chalamet doesn't look 26 for sure. He looks way younger. He looks about 16 to me. He looked, as Grimdark, I'm surprised. I didn't realize he was that old. So yeah, 26. He looks very young. Yeah. But kind of what you need in an actor who's you're gonna take them through a few years. I think one of the best ones we were talking about is Nigel Terry, who plays King Arthur in Excalibur. Goes from the child to old man, and the transformation's incredible. Carolyn says, one interesting thing about the new casting is Jessica and the Baron are both Swedish actors. Okie dokie. See, the Harkonnen thing, the Swedish, kind of does make sense. It's a Finnish name, isn't it? So you kind of want maybe a Scandinavian sense. I don't know. But yeah, actors are actors. Dean McKenna, you heard it here. I have never met another race of human being. Is that what I said? Oh dear. Sorry, I've never met another human being from a different race. I know. It's a very Irish thing, isn't it? It's kind of no matter where you go, there you are, I suppose. Something like that. You understand what I mean? I've never met an individual who's not a human being, a Homo sapien. So if there is anybody out there who's not one, let me know. I'd like to have a chat. It'd be great to meet something that's not human that can converse with you, isn't it? It's one sad thing. I can talk to my dogs to a degree, but there's limitations. But me and the dogs have a language. When people discuss Paul as a white savior, I often wonder why they never mention Pardot Kynes. That story seems crucial to me when we think about Paul's role in leading the Fremen. Yes, absolutely, Dean. And it's Pardot and Liet. Actually, they're two sort of, they're almost generationally the same, I suppose. But the whole point is that Pardot needs his child to be a Fremen to lead them that way. But their goals are the same, and Liet's educated off planet, isn't he? There we go. Jason Momoa is. So I just wanted to why they never mentioned Pardot. Yeah, well, Pardot Kynes is the one that, if you look whenever it comes to my videos, he's the one that I took the Lawrence of Arabia poster and blacked it out. So what I did was I kind of just presented this, the face is shadowed out. If you see what I mean, the idea was I didn't want to present Lawrence of Arabia too much. Because Lawrence of Arabia is not like Paul Atreides. And Lawrence of Arabia is, yeah, this is the thing. Lawrence is more like Pardot, I would say, or to a degree. But I think Lawrence of Arabia, I think, as presented within these arguments, this white savior, I think he's represented very not correctly a lot of the time, and I think a lot of people look at the film of Lawrence of Arabia, and that's what they know of Lawrence. As I said, guys, I know him as a. I keep looking for my copy, but I know Lawrence is Lawrence because of the way he's educated, and if you understand that, that's what makes Lawrence who he is. As pointed out, I'm educated in the same way, and I recognizes if you see what I mean. But he's similar in ways to Richard Francis Burton as well, I would think. Let's see. Oh, catching up. Oh well, Paul. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, the gender swap would. But yeah, I mean, almost all the characters. I don't think we could do a gender change with Jessica either. But yeah, it would be Paul or Pauline, I suppose, or Paula Atreides. You could, if you arguably, Brad, put it this way, you could invert everything in Dune, couldn't you? Make the Bene Gesserit an all male order. It's you could absolutely do it. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? What about the gender? Something I've never ever seen so clearly. Good example of why I'm here. Thank you, Sharon Ma. Well, yeah, it's just a bit of insight, but as I said, I'm kind of presenting that argument to you, but it's Frank's argument and his words there, not mine. So you'll see it when we get to the ecology section. This episode where we look at the two of these guys together, it really does put together the whole ecological shebang, if you like, as I would say. But it really focuses on Liet and Pardot. And you will see that, yeah, and you'll get Frank some quotes about what the planetologists, probably in that episode as well, but what the planetologists represent to Frank. It's very particular. Kynes is the lesson, if you see what I mean. But yes, I think, yeah, gender change, Paul or well, if we changed everybody. See, that's the thing. If you're going to do something like that, I remember watching a long time ago, and I might be wrong about this, folks, but I think it was on. It would have been a late night BBC Two. It would have probably been an Open University program, and it was a production of Richard III. And now is the winter of my now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York. All this stuff, often portrayed, as a character with disability and villainous in that sense. And they inverted the whole thing where they made Richard III able-bodied and made the entire rest of the cast disabled. And that, I thought, so doing that kind of thing, I think, has always been good. And there's many examples of that kind of thing. There's a while back, there was a version of The Tempest, I think, with Helen Mirren as Prospero. So all sorts of inversions in terms of gender have happened for a long time. I think it's about I don't know. It's kind of being politicized, if that's the right word. But a lot of the people who complain about various points of representation are also the market for the movies, I think. So it's very much a visual thing. And I think, as I said, a lot of these arguments break down when you go, let's put it on the radio, and honestly, it doesn't really matter. It's interesting, that, isn't it? And I don't know if anybody's seen The Lord of the Rings, I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies, but if anybody's listened to the Brian Sibley, the 13-hour long BBC version of the Lord of the Rings is vastly superior to the film. and it's brilliant. So much better. You don't get to see anybody worry about any of that kind of stuff at all. Goodness, what's my dog sneezing? You all right, Holly? What is that pillow? That's my dog. Oh, I don't know. What is that pillow? I think is it? I don't know. What is that? I think it's maybe Ben 10 or something like that. It's one of my son's pillow covers from when he's younger. But this is kind of the dog. This is the dog house. So as much as that we're a science fiction station, it's also the dog house in a sense. And if you know your strontium dog, you'll know that the space station is called the dog house. But Holly, would you give it up, love? Sit down. But she's kind of digging up a bit. We have two dogs just here, and they're being good as gold tonight. But she's just she's not happy with what she's at. Would you sit down, love? Here. There you go. She's just trying to get comfy. Sorry about that. Let's see. I live in sorry, that catch up was that pillow. Okay. Would have stuffed the whole story. It's certainly. I live in London. I can't exactly disagree about the water, but I have a filter jug and love the place. As I said, it has good points too. I lived there for 5 years, Chalma. Ether Prime says, I 100% disagree with your climate change fears. Not fears, Ether. Sorry, but we need CO2 for plant production. We're in a global cooling period. We know the cycles of the earth and sun. I totally agree. I didn't say that at all, Ether. I said you got to stop cutting all the trees down. That's it, because of money. Plant production, yeah. Global, but we need it for plant production. There you go. That's an economic argument, Ether. But we do need CO2. We all breathe it. It's not the point. It's not the point at all. It's the destruction of the natural environment, Ether. And so no worries. I'm happy to disagree with you, sir. No problem at all. And we live in different parts of the world. But we need CO2. We're in a global cooling period. It doesn't feel like it. Not here. We know the cycles of the earth and sun. Yes, we do. I mean, we know enough, but there's always the random as well. But no, I think it's just, economics. People will just keep cutting those things down. I don't think they're going to stop. But the pollution's pretty bad. I don't know. See, Northern Ireland's we're an island here. We've got our own kind of climate and everything like that. And I'm old enough to have witnessed change over. I'm in my 5th decade now, aren't I? Really? So pretty much. We're all everywhere's different, I suppose, and that's probably one of the things to do with it, Ether, is that we can't see the same things. Karen, to be clear, my comment about loving Sharon's performance in the movie is purely for the character she plays in the movie, not necessarily how accurately she represents the messages in the same way. Well, yeah, it's not the actress's fault about the script or how, so the performance is really all you can judge an actress on or an actor on, if you see what I mean. So yeah, how they do in the film should be great. And I said she looks very iconic. I think it looks really cool. So just looking forward to seeing it. But that's the point. It's the writers who will be delivering the message, and it's the writers that change the character, and it's the writers that are telling us that they understand this material perfectly. So that's my question there, I think. Let's see. Catching up. Where are we? Sorry, I've lost my place. Let me see if I can catch up where you guys are. Most xenophobia lives in the least diverse places. Ether Prime says Asia is far more xenophobic than the West. Is it? I wouldn't know, but Ether Prime says in the Philippines, for example, the locals have 2 different groups: those with dark skin and those with lighter skin. Due to their colonization by Spain, Japan, and America, they associate lighter skin with wealth and status in Asia, whereas those with dark skin are believed to be outdoor laborers and those with lighter skin are believed to be office workers. That's ridiculous, Ether Prime. Shows you what I mean about people. There's a difference in you and me. Nonsense. Skin, isn't it? It's the largest human organ in the largest organ in the human body. And I said, I've never seen a white person. I've never seen a black person. I've seen everything almost in between. If you see what I mean. Color's the whole issue of color. People's skin's just stupid, I suppose. But maybe there's something hardwired in the humanity that we need to do this kind of thing to each other. I suppose I don't know, but it makes no sense. And I'm a modern person, Ether. It's all mad to me. This is why I often think I'm insane, and everybody else out there is perfectly fine. If you see what I mean. But there we go. But thank you for that. It's insightful to hear things like that. Here it's got nothing to do with the color of your skin. Everybody looks the same here. It's all to do with how you do that. But you'll be identified. We were talking about this earlier by how you talk. If you see what I mean. Excuse me. And as I said, I can mess with that quite badly because I'm often misidentified. I know there was some cancelled all-female Lord of the Flies adaptation, and thank God it goes against the whole point of the book about the boys descending into savagery. I think that would have been interesting, Grimdark. I think I might have found a photo or something like that, because who's to suggest that the girls wouldn't descend into such savagery? If you see what I mean. And it would be worth looking at to see, does it transfer well, I think. You can invert gender and all sorts of things for quite important reasons. I think something like Lysistrata, that'll be a giggle if you invert it all. If you invert gender, I think you have to invert all of it. If you see what I mean, to get the absolute inverse of what you're looking for. But it can be insightful. It's one of those things that we learn sometimes. Sometimes by doing things wrong, we learn. But I don't know what it would look like. You're quite right. It is male aggression, boys. My wife would say that she thinks women are no different than men, and I tend to agree. I think women are slightly less, a lot less violent and aggressive, but I think we're all pretty much the same. There are always exceptions to the rule. But there we go. Yeah. But that would be interesting. It's exactly one of those sort of books, Grimdark, that's the sort of thing. Let's invert that and see what happens, because there is actual worth in it. I think if you have the ability to commentate and look at a polar opposite within society, I think it's a really good idea, actually. Doc, will you be doing a reaction video live stream after you see the movie? Well, absolutely. I would love to do a review on it. We won't get the movie until December the 2nd. I'm not, again, it's 21st of October for me here, Brad, but whether I'm going to be able to see the film safely is of concern at the minute. And I'd happily just get it through. Fine, if it comes to it, I'd like to watch it in my house and be safe. But Northern Ireland's not dealing with. Our government is really stupid, and they've just opened everything up, no restrictions. Go and cough over whoever you like, and all that stuff. It's just absurd. And COVID's not been going well here at all, and they're we're going to get another peak, I think, before Christmas. So it's one of those things where I'm a bit worried about it. And in terms of just in terms of risk and stuff, we have reasons to be careful. So I'm not going to risk everything to go see the film Dune. It's as simple as that. I will not do that. I'm not that stupid. And I hope also that if any of you have kind of doubts about the safety of the place, or that you wouldn't be that stupid either. You're going to see it somehow. But even with vaccines, at the minute, some people aren't doing too well when they're getting hit with COVID, even if they're vaccinated. And that's off personal experience. We know about that. So, in case anybody wants to go, we're getting a lot of people being shut down. Silence that person at the minute. Medical professionals here too. So yeah, Northern Ireland's really not looking good at all. And the person in charge is a buddy of Enoch Powell. Can you believe that? He used to work for Enoch Powell. And he's unelected. If any of you don't know Enoch Powell, check out his Rivers of Blood speech, and there you go. There you go. That's what's in charge of Northern Ireland at the minute. 100%. Oh, I'm gonna stop talking about Northern Ireland, guys. I'm so downbeat about it. I keep thinking it will drive people away, but I suppose we're talking about our own. We're all talking about where we live each. So it's good to figure out these things, that we're sometimes we're all in the same boats, but just swimming in different pools. If you know what I mean, or moving around different pools. So yeah, I hope to see the film, Brad, and I'll definitely somehow see it by hook or crook, as the man says. I will have seen it, I think, by then, whether it's in a cinema or not, I don't know. Might even see it before that, if you see my meaning. But I'll definitely do something about it. Channel Mal says 100% agree about the BBC audio Lord of the Rings. It rained through my childhood thanks to that, and somehow still defines for me not just the point sound, but also somehow the appearance of the characters. Yeah, then I agree with you. Then says Ether. Sorry, yeah, no worries, Ether. Don't have to worry. Yeah, some my kind of words are usually precise, but as I said to you earlier, guys, sometimes I run a line of thought in my head and forget to finish the sentence. I do apologize. It's just a bit who I am. But yeah, no, carbon dioxide is not the problem at all. Trees are, that's what the trees are for. You see what I mean? If you approach things from a common sense approach, what is the simple solution? That's it. Stop cutting this down, build up, stop cutting out all this stuff. X amount of carbon dioxide is good, too much is bad. But yeah, we all breathe it out. I used to go picking berries here, guys. Northern Ireland's a country that you could go picking berries, blackberries and raspberries. Won't pick them anymore because of the amount of crap metals in them just from the petrol fumes. You'd be not safe to do. It's real sad. I used to pick them with my grandmother. It's a real thing I'd associate picking berries with my granny, and then she'd make them into jam and big pies and stuff. Lovely. There we go. So let's catch up. Some hand that builds destroys. Yeah. But it's always easier to destroy than to build. Genuinely believe that. Grimdark couldn't get Gurs. What's that? Channel Grimdark couldn't get Gurs descend into savagery. I think they could. I see, that's the thing. Channel Mao, have a look at the back eye. You'll see women descending into savagery. Look at the followers of Dionysus. Hey, there's savage. Seriously, there's always an exception to the rule. Brad says the light skin, dark skin is big in Asia. There's a massive beauty product market there based on lightning skin color. I don't get that sort of thing. I suppose a lot of people aren't happy with. We all have kind of some kind of body dysmorphia or something like that. It's good to just get happy with yourself and not worry about it. I'm so. If you stand me next to a normal white person, and I know this is funny, I say, I've never really described myself as white before, except maybe tonight and a couple of other times. I'm so pale. I get commented on by white people about how pale I am, and I'm not. I don't have albinism or anything like that. But if you put me next to a normal white person, you'll see that I'm positively pale, almost to the point of translucent. I don't know. I've never looked at anybody in terms of their skin, in terms of. I don't know. I think it's just we're all. I think everything's nice. Do you know what I mean? I think everybody's nice. All different colors of skin. I don't get the problem why one of them's bad or that one's not good or this one's rubbish or it's just stupid. And see, I don't know. Maybe my thread is just that humanity is really stupid on the whole. I don't get it. But we can discriminate for any reason. It's all sorts of things. But to run with the discrimination, promote it, I don't know. 100% Doc says Dean on the gender inversion of Lord of the Flies. Third wave feminism would insist that they would be just as equally as savage. All these waves of feminism. I've heard about this. I don't know what they are. I'm a person that studied a lot of feminism over the years, but mainly through science fiction. Oddly enough, so to me, it's just an ongoing thread of development of women's ideas, and science fiction has always been a great place, a safe place to work them out. It's one of the main reasons. It's one of the things that attracts me to science fiction. And again, people look at science fiction as I'm sure all of you guys are fans. Interesting enough, we get a wee sense of what other stuff that you like, but I'm kind of curious who your big favorite science fiction writers are. But it's always been a safe place for ideas, and regardless of what kind of ideas they are, science fiction is almost untouchable. Comedy is seen in a similar light, but no, the comedians also get dragged off stage and shot. Science fiction is a safe way of presenting ideas because it's considered not real. And if you look at the history of 2000 AD, the comic that it was before was shut down by Thatcher and the British government. They just changed everything and set it in the future and called it science fiction. And just put the stuff back out. Actually, much, much worse. 2000 AD's reputation as an incredibly violent and incredibly funny comic is well known, but untouchable. No government has been able to shut it down. It's fantasy, it's science fiction. and that's why science fiction is a philosophy, is a place for philosophy, for pushing ideas, for loving wisdom, literally in that meaning. It's a great place for. This is one of the things that I'm interested in, is looking at cultures around the world, particularly science fiction from around the world. And I've recently seen some stuff coming out from Africa, different countries in Africa, and I'm going, that's brilliant. And it means that these particularly some countries that have been very hard done by under empire and all of this, and they're starting to look to their own future. They're dreaming their dreams. What if? And I think that's brilliant. I've seen some kids. I can't remember. I must get you some of these things. And so, Afrofuturism, for example, is something that's new to me within science fiction. Haven't read anything. Reading about it, if you understand. I'm really, really interested. And maybe the only thing was Judge Dredd had Pan African judges a long time ago. And I thought, oh yeah, so that's what's great about science fiction. And it's always been where I'm in a society that discriminates. Ultimately, it's discrimination begins with government and the church. It's at the 2 points of society. And it trickles down. What is it? Webster says some cursed example poison it near the head, death and disease through the whole land spread, isn't it? It's a Duchess of Malfi, I think. I don't know. Ridiculous. But yeah, it's good. Science fiction is for that reason, and we're talking about people with different colored skins and all this stuff, and irrelevant. Science fiction is never really, unless it's a science fiction that's dealing with kind of topics of race, and it tends to do them do it in a different way, doesn't it? That's the great thing, and we can present it as analogs. So you get biting attacks on racism in science fiction, but it doesn't look like it. If you see what I mean, it can be overt, and it can be subtle, and it can be clandestine. It can be camouflaged, and that's what I think is great about science fiction. It's a very subversive genre. But yeah, absolutely. Women, I think, would be equally as some. It's to do with, isn't it? Really, that it's the power structures that the kids develop. They're very much a model of, a mirror on civilization. And yeah, I my wife doesn't like Lord of the Flies. I think it's a very good book, but it's a very dark book, and it's a good book for the lessons you learn, I suppose. The people with darker colored skin are treated like trash, totally ignored, pushed around, etc. The overall, a very polite society, but people from the provinces are often treated as second class, says Ether Prime. Citizens, many online English tutoring companies discriminate against people of African origin. Really? You should go to the Irish tutoring colleges then, companies, Ether. My understanding is an awful lot of people in certain parts of the world prefer to learn their English from Irish and Scottish people. And my understanding is it's entirely to do with the way we talk and the way we pronounce our vowels and certain sounds. I'm not sure if that's totally true, but I read that something that's been in my head for a long time. Call centers prefer Irish people over any other group. It's our voice, basically. And if you're only going to hear a voice on the phone, they want it to be we're considered to have nice voices, I suppose. I walk that back a bit, but I feel inverting the gender roles goes against the themes of the book with that primal instinct for the young boys shown in the book. Oh, I mean, I do agree in that sense. I'm not saying to have a separate animal. Lord of the Flies is Lord of the Flies, and it always will be. But I think it's one of those things that you could invert it with. What would it feel right if you read it? Absolutely just substituted the male characters for female characters. How would that book feel? I think that's the exercise. But the better thing would be to actually write a new book. This is often what I say. If you think a certain thing about a book, don't go in there and go change that. A lot of people have been saying, "Oh, we must change this," and Dune, it's a product of its time and all this. Very ignorant arguments coming out of a lot of very ignorant people. But the point is, like, for example, is it somebody, I can't remember the name just offhand, but somebody's got a real problem with Dune. You know what they did? They wrote a book very similar, but it's their response to Dune. And I'm much more likely to give that consideration rather than saying, take that out, do this, do that because I want it. What's the book I'm thinking of? Ocean. Is it Door into Ocean? I'm trying to remember the author. So that's a response to Dune, for example. One where the author hasn't sat and bitched about it. It's got up and done something. And there's a few books that are responses to Dune, guys. We've talked a wee bit about them, Um, so yeah, it's just a thought. I like thought experiments, Grimdark, and just in my own head, I could run. It's a bit like we were talking about of Mice and Men, and how I don't really like the end of that. Um, because simply put, you can run the thought experiment of what happens next, and that's the worst thing about of Mice and Men is if you actually understand the story, run the thought experiments. George and Lenny, yeah, what happens next after the end? Because it can't be in any way good. Um, which is what makes it worse, I suppose. Just catching up. I experienced lots of racist remarks about photos, drawings of people of African origin. It was appalling. It doesn't help that their word is also the N word. Word. I'm not sure what that means. Just as an is also the N word too. So you'll hear the saying it over and over in a class with a 5 to 9-year-old. Is that Chinese? I have experienced lots of racist remarks about photos, drawings. People of African origin at this point doesn't help that their word is also the N word too. Oh, I see. Right. Sorry. Is that Chinese equivalent of the N word? Ether, if I get your gist correctly. So you'll hear the saying over and over and over. I don't know if I agree. Basically, it's an interesting idea to explore the humanity of that savagery without restricting it to the idea of boys and maleness. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. There are plenty of women who we can put into certain categories of viciousness, and yeah, always exceptions to the rules. I don't know. Here's your experiment for you guys. Okay, if you're going to remake, if you're going to do a female only version of Lord of the Flies, make it the girls from St. Trinians. There you go. That's there's a thought experiment. There's a the St. Trinians version of Lord of the Flies. If you don't know who St. Trinians are, look them up. And if you've never seen any of the St. Trinians films, there's new ones actually, but the old ones are brilliant. Really, really good. Let me just catch up a wee bit, folks. We're piling on down here. But yeah, St. Trinians is a girls' school of British films. Very funny. The head mistress of the school is always played by a man in the films, deliberately, and very, very funnily. I think it's who is it? Is it Rupert Everett? Is that what do you call him? Possibly. I'm very bad with names. But the new St. Trinians films are pretty good. The old ones are ingenious. They're brilliant. I'm not sure if they're eating comedies, but the St. Trinians girls are pretty full on, aren't they? They'd to be honest with you, if you sent the St. Trinians onto the same island, they'd kick the teeth out of the lads. So there you go, guys. Another thought experiment. St. Trinians, the girls of St. Trinians meets Lord of the Flies. If you've ever seen there's books of the St. Trinians girls and stuff, it's like grown men and stuff going, not them, no, run. It's the girls, they're girls with hockey sticks and all. They're vicious. Absolutely brilliant. Let's catch up a wee bit then. It could work, maybe work influenced by Lord of the Flies, yeah. Catching up a wee bit more, sorry. But there you go. Honoured matches and fish speakers are savage, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Wait, hang on a minute. What's going on here? Wrote about sensitive subjects, even how was woke ether, and then you pause briefly. Sounds like the same as the N word. Right. What's this? Okay. Goodbye. No, I did the wrong thing. Hang on. Oh, sorry, folks. I'm trying to. Looks like we've got a whole lot of racist stuff, Nazi stuff here. I'm trying to get it deleted here. Can I ask whoever's doing that to please stop doing it, please? All right. Let me see. I don't know. Can you guys see this? It's turned up with the Nazi symbol, the Haken cross. I woke science fiction, watched the original Twilight Zone, and looked at the writer Rob Sterling's view on war. Bear with me a wee second, would you? Right. Yeah, that's Grim Darker. That's where I'm at. Jesus, WTF? Sorry, what is going on here, folks? Bear with me, please. That's a wee bit upsetting. Well, it's not upsetting. It's fucking annoying. Excuse my French. Uh, and okay, timed out. What the fuck? Sorry, gentlemen. I don't know what's going on here, gentlemen and ladies. I really do apologize. I think I blocked him. I've never had to deal with anything like that, guys, before, and all I can do is apologize. Shit. Well, that's not us doing that. Yeah, I'll see what I can do about editing that. Grimdark Elven Lore Master says we might not want this stream uploaded because of that. I'll tell you what, I have a very limited. I'll give you an idea, folks. I have a very limited subscriber list, and as much as it's not probably a subscriber, I can find that person. If it is a person. So I'm really sorry. As you well know, as you probably know, my grandfather is killed in World War II, fighting the Nazis. At least that's one of the stories we possibly. I said my grandfather's an unknown soldier, so I don't like that stuff at all. Well, shit. Did I have to explain that? Did you not figure out that I didn't like that kind of stuff? So really, really sorry, folks. That's just disgusting. I don't mind. I don't mind if you want to present your views, even if they're like those kind of views. I don't mind if you want to present them, but not like that. That's disgusting. It's just hate. Well, it's not. I don't know what to call it. It's incitement to murder. That's what that is, isn't it? But I don't know if you agree with me or not. Sorry, bear with me, folks. It really has just set me on a wee bit of a spin. We can see the name, but not his message anymore. No problem. I can totally understand, says Ether Prime. We understand the internet landscape, fortunately. Sorry for the outburst. Someone has to keep up to that. I wouldn't apologize about that. I didn't see it there. I'd been kind of, as your comments kind of come along the screen, guys, they kind of move down a wee bit, and I tend to keep what I'm trying to answer at the kind of at the top. So I didn't see that at all until I just clicked and I went, "What the hell?" And is it spam bot or something? That there's a person behind that, and well, it's my channel. I'm hosting it, Karen. I'm one of these people. As I said, my name means host. If I'm your host and somebody mistreats my guests, I tend to take it extremely personally, because it violates my kind of rules of hospitality, if you see what I mean. I'm sure maybe if you do understand that kind of thinking. So I'm genuinely embarrassed. No, I will apologize. It's not my words, not my doing, but I'm still going to apologize for it. I'm quite sad to see it. So just after what we were talking about, science fiction. You know what I mean? You can block certain words on your channel to remove it or prevent it. I'm not going to do that either. You see, it's language is my business fundamentally, regardless of whatever you think about all the different degrees and stuff that I have. The one thing that they all have in common, whether they're alive or dead or machine, is language. And I believe in the use of language. No, and I don't believe in not discussing things, but that's incitement. As much as I've had to report it, I think we need. I don't know. It says that I don't know if I blocked it, guys, but what I think I did was got it delayed. Or it says timed out by Doc for 300 seconds, but I've still got it showing up here. Let me see. Right, there we go. Thank you for. I've reported this. Okay, there's a report feature. Okay, there we go. But no. I don't know why anybody would pop in here and do that right now. I would think that that's a very. See, I've got a wee mind on me, folks. I actually think I know who that is. Fair enough. There's a person there's a person that was not everybody who watches your channel, shall we say, do you want them to watch your channel? But I might have an idea who that is. We have a creature in Northern Ireland who's a bit like that. And he's been out in New Zealand doing an awful lot of harm. And I'm wondering if that's him. If Stevie's watching, you know who I'm talking about, Stevie. I don't know if you are watching, but I'll maybe have a wee chat with you about this. I don't know. Could be somebody else altogether. Really sorry, folks. It sent me on a wee bit of a spiral. Let me just back up and see if I can find out where we were at. I'll tell you what, I'm going to wrap things up in about 10 minutes, folks. So if you do have any wee comments, I'm just going to go through what you have said there. So the rest of us have been civil. No need to apologise. No worries, Grimdark. It's you are very civil. There's no place for that in this. This is about friendly chat, isn't it? No judgment. It's just trolls think we all understand. Let's not waste more time on it. That's why most channels have moderators for live streams so they can remove that kind of stuff. I always agree. You can also block certain words on your channel, remove it, or prevent it. No need, not your fault. Sorry, guys, just catching up, as I said. Next, who would win, Judge Dredd versus Batman versus the Punisher? Judge Dredd. That's an easy one, Brad. Thank you for that, guys, for taking my mind away from that. I agree. In a small stream, nonetheless. Yeah, we're very, very small, and there's only I'll be honest with you guys, about 120 people who watch, like a core audience, about 120 based on the statistics and stuff. That's good enough for me, I think. But so there we go. So no, we're very small, low key. We're off people's radar, to be honest with you. So it could easily be bots as well. They're right. I've been using bots for a long time. I've seen some of those things pop up in other chats. I doubt it's personal. There are probably 10,000 other live streams hit by the same message. Interesting, guys. Well, as I say, you there is something on my radar with which that kind of creature. Can I be number 9? Number 99. Are you talking about from Wizards? Where's that number of the trolls? Where's the discourse? Yes. None of the trolls' words are unsuitable for discourse, just the choice and the order. Yeah. You hit the big times now. You have had your first racist bot invasion. Laughing out loud. Yeah. Bots. What are my thoughts on a gender-inverted Batman versus Judge Dredd versus Punisher set on Arrakis? Oh, we're going places. So it'd be Batwoman versus Judge Dreddina, Judge Josephine Dredd, I suppose, versus, what's the Punisher's name? I'm trying to think. Versus the Punisher on Arrakis, desert planet. I want the gender-inverted Punisher. Wouldn't see why not. Oh, heck, here we go. Judge Dredd, yeah. It is a big thing, I suppose. I don't know. I think as much as if I was a young woman, put it this way, and people are talking about all film properties, and we want to see more women and more movies and stuff, I don't see why you're not writing original stories for these for young women, all kind of women to be in these kind of films. What you're doing is just taking other stories that are male heavy and flipping it, and you're regurgitating material. That's why it doesn't seem fresh or interesting. Gender inverted predator. Well, what would its face look like then, Dean? That be the Punisher is a movie I long for. Never going to happen. There is those crossovers, isn't there? There's a Dredd and Batman one, and it's a big thing in comic book worlds, isn't it? Teaming up and who can beat who in a fight and stuff. Gender inverted predator. If Miss Batman found a way to harness the power of the worm, Joanne Dredd. Yeah. There is a female Dredd, isn't there? What's her name? Judge Dredd. I think there is a daughter, isn't it? That's Frank Castle, isn't it? That's what I was trying to remember the Punisher. Francine, Judge Judy. What's the name of Dredd's? Vienna Dredd, I believe, is the name. I'm not sure if it's a daughter or niece. I can't remember, but it's a character that appeared a long time ago, and I don't know. She was a kid, so I don't know if she's ever come back or not. And Ether Prime says, just a little info about my story. I'm writing a story about the rise of a female god empress. The lore is 100% different. She starts as a slave and rises to immortal galactic god empress. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good trope, isn't it? It's so. What's your female god empress? Lore is 100% different. Starts as a slave and rises to immortal galactic god empress. And you were setting it in about 10,000 years in the past, weren't you, Ether? Sounds interesting. I like to say my dad's dog's called Miss Bo Woofity. I always say that she's a reincarnated Queen of Egypt. She's Miss Bo Woofititi. That's a good one. Ryan the Scar says, "Hiya, Ryan. Judge Anderson also had her own solo series. Yes, she did. Judge Anderson's solo series are really good. Grimdark. There's a few particular ones. There's one on Mars, which I can't remember what it's called, but it's very kind of Total Recall. But there's one called Satan and one called Shambhala with the Judge Anderson. Really good art, really good graphic novels, but they were, excellent. Judge Anderson's a great character. There's one on Mars, and it's to do with Orlok, and I can't remember what it's called, but I was going to... give me a wee second there, I think. Have I got a... Yeah, I don't know. There you go. That's... I don't know if you can see that. That's the artwork, actually. It's a wee badge, one of them old round badges, from the comic book I'm telling you about, but I can't remember... Sorry, I was probably very loud there. I can't remember the life of me, what it's called. I must look it up. Who pinned the swastika in the chat, Ryan? We'd love to know, wouldn't we? That was a bit. It's the first time anything like that's happened to me, I suppose. But it was I don't know. The discussion was we either just some nutter or we've been spam botted or something like that. A bot, but I don't. Yeah, we've managed to get it blocked, but I kind of didn't see it start. So, and it's just, I don't know. We're a very small little station, if you know what I mean. So it sounds like so it was a bit surprising, Ryan. It threw me a wee bit. But everybody's being really nice about it, which is lovely actually. Because I'd probably invade the country for something like that. See what I mean? I'm the sort of person, I'll find you, I'll track you down. Not that I'll do, but I like to confront people with what they've done. Yeah, dickheads, absolutely. You know something funny enough, Ryan, the whole conversation that we were on was we were just talking about the eclectic nature of Dune and how things like skin color and all this nonsense don't matter. And we were, you'll find it up there in the dialogue and stuff what we were chatting about. It's just some massive twat. Yeah, I don't know. So it doesn't give an identity next to it, does it? In any way? Not to me. I can't see where all of you have a little icon and a username attached. All I can see is the swastika, so we're assuming maybe it is a bot. Have I got message deleted? Have I got to remove all of these individually then, haven't I? Let me just get them out of here. Right. Remove. Sorry, I thought because they were all the same, I thought because I'd... Let me see. Oh, they're not actually going. I'll just leave that, folks. I don't know what... I suppose maybe we'll not put up this the live stream with us. I don't know what you guys think. Sometimes it's useful to... That's his damn name. Is that what the whole thing is, his name? Wow. Yeah, it's mental, isn't it? Something wrong with that person. Could do with a bit of help, I suppose. Maybe, I don't know. It's easy to blame other people for your problems. I think that's what the crux of it is. All there. Hello, Cosette. Hi, all. My first time here. Hi, Cosette. Sorry if that's your first time here. That's the first time that's ever happened here. I do apologize. It's deleted. Thanks, Ryan. I believe in genetic de-evolution. Yeah. I don't know. The Nazis' ideology is very, very stupid, and it always has been, I suppose. But I'll tell you what, guys. Well, with all of that, And yeah, thanks for joining us, Cosette. Has anybody got any other wee questions on Liet Kynes or Dune or anything like that? I will run for a few more wee minutes because we've got a few people joining us here, but I'll have to call it a bit of a night shortly. I think my throat's a wee bit better today. So hi, Cosette. If anybody got any questions, we peaked at 15 viewers. You think? Yeah, that's pretty good. I think for me, I'm quite. Grimdark, we used to play in a band, and sometimes pubs would hire us, and we do a lot of charity work. Occasionally, we turn up, and there's like 3 people there, and we'd still play to them. What the heck? That's the way I always look at it. As long as you've got an audience, you might as well talk. They've done me things with classes, and one person's turned up, so I'll teach the one person, I suppose. I think it's crap. But yeah, Brad Rose says, I have word of power like the Lynch movie. I've silenced large groups, even a whole Australian pub just before an international rugby league game. The staff said the soundtrack don't return till ... Oh, that keeps me in suspense, this thing. Half time, the word is shush. Oh, my word is no. But yeah, I was considered actually going for the Guinness Book of Records for the loudest shout, because I think it's held currently by a Northern Ireland teacher, and I think I could beat her. Let me just catch up, guys. So, channel David says, in short, would you summarize your thoughts on why it's all Kynes' fault? Well, it's the Kynes family, but Pardot and Liet. Yeah, simply put, if you look at the wee appendix in Dune, read that. It's all about manipulation and the use of a people to create this dream for this planet that this ecologist has. It's as simple as that. In terms of how he manipulates the Fremen, he knows that they're the geomorphic agents that he needs to use, and also that in order to get in with them properly, because he'll always be seen as an outsider to a degree, he needs to marry one and have a Fremen child in order to get his environmental goals. So up to the point of marriage and having a child, and that's the way his thinking is. And then, of course, Liet Kynes is pretty much his father's son to a degree, as much as he's Fremen. The whole fact about that is why, I suppose, it's partly to continue Pardot's dream. And even the bit where we see that they're going to kill Pardot, he's oblivious. The dream, it's the mono focus, I think, and it represents that systemic approach to ecology. And even though from Herbert's point of view, his thinking is long term, but it's nowhere near long term enough, and that's the same problem that even Liet has. And Liet keeps saying it's a system. So it's what happens to the Fremen because they set up this ecological thing, and it's partly to do with the Missionaria Protectiva that's already in place. So in a kind of way, there's 2 control systems put over the Fremen, but it's their one that allows Paul to step in. I suppose the ecological control, which is also linked to religious control, is the one that allows the Atreides to exploit the Fremen utterly. And ultimately, what they do to the planet. Was it David? Sorry, I catch up with you there. Where are we? Ultimately, what they do to the environment is the wrong thing. It wrecks the Fremen, it wrecks their way of life, and ultimately brings about, whether it be for whatever reason, the end of the Fremen. Bye bye. So that's the thing. It destroys their, and it's that. What he represents to Herbert is Western man and a systemic approach to ecology. And Herbert's main warning, of course, the same warning is repeated. So Paul is a warning, but the warning before him is Liet. And we were talking to David that he's only here in this wee bit it's a very short chapter. We have a lot more on them in the next chapter, where you'll see how Pardot and Liet work together, or that line of thinking carries on. And basically what they do creates the doom of the Fremen. If the Fremen had stuck to what they were doing, didn't really involve themselves with Kynes or kill them that night whenever they take his water, it changes everything. So it's the ecological dream that they present is what brings about their doom, if you see what I mean. And it's that long-term thing. And again, they don't fully understand the planet either. And because of that, they're not quite in the natural rhythms of it, I think. Even though Kynes knows the planet so well, and he knows what's going to kill him, but it's what kills him actually reveals part of the mystery to Liet, and he realizes why they were all wrong. It's that moment of his death and the planet killing him that you actually get it in the story. So I hope that answers your question, David. But we've got another episode in the next, after we deal looking at Kynes as the hero here. We look at both the Kynes family as the planet all. We have a whole episode on the two of them, much longer, and we look at that in a fair bit of detail there. So Dave was saying, I hope that answers your question. Dave says, a bit late to the party, right? Not to worry. We've had an interesting little blip there at the end, you know. But Cosette's saying, I'm a serious Dune fan. Well, this is the place for you, Cosette. Though we're not too serious, I hope. So I hope you enjoy the content. And feel free to join in the chat, and any comments or questions, fire away. Given out grade 15, and only a few of them were 15, and only a few of them were Nazi. Yeah, Nazis. Kick, yeah. But we had a wee bit of an invasion from a Nazi bot or something like that earlier, folks. So, which just, I don't know. As I said, it's a new thing for me, a new experience. I don't know if I think some of you have seen stuff like that before. But it was a wee bit bizarre, and a wee bit shocking. Well, not really shocking, but it's just annoying, I suppose, in considering what we're talking about. That you know, I think we're very much on the whole have a sensible conversation about these kind of things. You know, I believe humans were more evolved. Let me see, where do we go? Oh, I've got a bit of catching up to do again, folks. Here we go. Ether Prime says, I believe humans were more advanced, in the past. We didn't evolve here on Earth. Our ancestors crashed here, and we've gone from advanced caveman today, a kind of variation of the ancient alien theory, which I don't agree with. I believe we were the ancient aliens. Okay. More advanced than advanced. Well, I think the idea that humans from earlier civilizations are stupid or primitive is highly incorrect. Whether we came here for another planet or not, Ether Prime, I don't know. Then if our ancestors crashed here, I've gone from advanced caveman today. The caveman today. Kind of variation of the ancient alien theory, which I don't agree with. I believe was the ancient aliens. Okie dokie. I wouldn't agree with that at all. But something to caveman to modern man as a caveman. I take it you mean Neanderthal man. There's loads of species of human being going back. Mucho. So I think evolution's obvious. But yeah, each to their own. You know, it's how life begins. I suppose that's the thing. The great question is. It's to do with Darwin's on the origin of species. It's what he can't answer. He ultimately does answer. Well, he ultimately gives an answer, and he says, "I think it happens by spontaneous. Species just appear spontaneously." You know. Dean says Pardot was an idiot though. His manipulation was an accident. Remember the man falling on his knife? Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't. It's one of those things where the mistake of it shouldn't happen. He should just die there. That's what I said whenever applying the idea of Lawrence of Arabia. Not that I think it's a good application. It applies more to Pardot than certainly to Paul Atreides, I think. But again, I suppose if you know Lawrence of Arabia from the David Lean film, I think you don't know Lawrence of Arabia very well. Ether Prime says Liet was wrong. Leto II proved it. Yeah. Well, Leto's always the continual criticizing them all, isn't he? Yes, that's it. That's exactly right, and it's happening before Leto's the God Emperor as well. It's happening in Children of Dune too. So it's the Leto through Leto and Ganima that you can kind of get the discussion of what's been happening and the scale of it because of what they're hiding, the fact that they're abominations. But by changing the planet, it devolved the Fremen. It's the common one of these common things, Ether, is that's the point that Herbert keeps pointing out, is that in terms of evolution, all of the agencies within the Dune universe forget how it'll change them. All of them. That's the other continual, thing that Herbert's pointing out to us. Leto the Third. Is that Leto? How many? Four. Leto the Third. Yes, indeed. For anybody's, I don't know. Some people maybe not confused about that, but Leto the First, is Paul's dad. Leto the Second is Paul's baby that gets killed very early on, and then so Leto the Second isn't really the Leto the Second. He is Leto the Third, but we always think he's called Leto the Second because Leto the Second the baby doesn't rule. If you see what I mean, doesn't grow to maturity. Dave says, thank you for the answer. I've been thinking of a long-term thinking a lot. I wondered if prescience had such emphasis as an exaggerated form of long-term thinking. Prescience, I think we were talking about, is presented in a few different ways, in an esoteric manner, but also as a mathematical manner, David, within so arguably it's called more like probability, in that sense. But yeah, long-term thinking, again, everybody's thinking is not long-term enough, and the gaps in the prescience and all, the prescience thing is tricky. Ether Prime says, is Pardot in the Frank Herbert novels or the Brian Herbert novel? Ether, Pardot is in Dune, the first Dune novel. 1 second, I'll get it. Hang on. Oh, excuse me. No. There it is. Right, excuse me, Holly. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Now, that says something, because a lot of people maybe read Dune and don't hit the appendices, so I'll just get it for you. But it's a mini adventure. I used to describe it as a bit like James Bond films kind of always have the end of the previous mission. So, Appendix 1, the ecology of Dune. Right at the end of Dune, right there. There we go. This is it. Sorry, I think. So this is the miniature adventure, and it ends with the course had been set in this time. The course had been set by this time. The ecological Fremen were aimed along their way. Liet Kynes had only to watch and nudge and spy upon the Harkonnens until the day his planet was afflicted by a hero. So it's a little short story. Opens with the beyond a critical point within a finite space. Freedom diminishes as numbers increase. This is as true as humans in the finite space of a planetary ecosystem as it is of gas molecules in a sealed flask. The human question is not how many can possibly survive within the system, but what kind of existence is possible for those who do survive. Pardot Kynes, first planetologist of Arrakis. No, so it's the first appendix. Ether is a little mini, and it's written as a little mini story. So check it out. It's maybe one of those things that a lot of people just don't. They read the book and they go, "Oh, I'll finish the book," and that appendixes, I don't read them. So you really should read them. But that's where Pardot is. He's in Dune itself, right at the back, and that bit is set, as I said, long before the Atreides arrive on Arrakis. The appendices are well worth reading. So there we go. Deans and Grimdark, Elvenor, Master King, and Souls for my Lord. Blood for the Blood God, eh? Grimdark. Let's go back. I remember the old White Dwarf magazine used to release some of that stuff. There were a few bands that kind of did that kind of thing. Remember those wee plastic records that you got free with a magazine? So there we go. Thank you all for being so kind and welcoming. You're very welcome, because it's good. The more the merrier. There are a lot of good content in the back catalogue. If you want to just find the channel, you're in a good company. If you're a Dune fan, good night, everyone. Catch you next time. Thanks very much, David. Take it easy, sir. Okay. I truly believe they're the old ones. Oh, I've plenty of stuff on that. The archaeological approach is always best, Ryan. I'll say that. Ether Prime, so genetics would disagree. Let's just count on down here, and I'll just catch up. Really, we'll get to that, and then I think we'll maybe call it a night, folks. So let me just see. I've been snubbed to this channel. Oh, sorry, David. I've been subbed to this channel for about a year, and I've loved the back color. I've just never seen a live stream. Oh, there you go. Because it's quite new. And it's all about on the fly. We're getting used to it, but we thought it would be a good way of putting these videos up to do a wee bit of Q&A after each of them, and it's going well. But we're doing one every night until the 21st of this month, when hopefully I'll get to see the Dune movie. So, but thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be here tomorrow night, just after every episode, Cosette. So good night, David. Let's see. Probability makes sense as well for many of the specific examples of prescience I recall from the book. I guess I've forgotten that name. I'm laughing out loud. I'm so terrible. Yeah, join the club, Ether. Very bad with names. Well, nice to have you join the live chat tonight, says David. Karen says, someone named Matt Colville made a video about the Pardot Kynes appendix. summarizing the story. Yeah, I know Matt Colville's videos. He's quite good. Somebody pointed out to me a wee while. I checked him out because I didn't know anything about him, Karen. But somebody made a very nice comment to me and said that I was a bit like him, and they said that we were like kind old uncles or something. And I thought, okay, but so somebody had compared me to. So I've checked out. Yeah, he's got a couple of. He likes his Dune. He's a Dungeons and Dragons guy, isn't he? And he presents his stuff well. Yeah. So I don't play Dungeons and Dragons anymore, but I checked out. That's a good one actually, Callum. Yeah, if anybody wants to check out Matt's videos on Pardot, they're quite good actually, isn't it? But has he done any more, Caron? I'm wondering. Ether, he's a big Dune fan, isn't he? Ether says, "Oh yeah, I read that once. I skipped it every other time. I think the last time I read it was 12 to 16. Yeah, it's very insightful. The appendix. Excuse me. If you've got the book, just read it, guys. Yeah." I think it's one of the things that I asked Karen actually whenever you first seen the film. Was there any hint of the mini adventure from the appendix in the movie? And sadly, no. Alas, but it was the one thing I wanted to ask to somebody who'd seen the film. I'm bothered again. When I moved to the Philippines, I was unable to fit in my luggage. Already at previous proposals. Start a Discord group. I've sort of have, but I haven't been able to figure out how to work it yet, Dean. And I get so little time. But I have kind of done it, but I've just left it there. So if you, yeah, it'd be nice to sort of get in with and have other people add their voices to this kind of thing. Ryan said Matt Colville makes good content. He does indeed. Start a reading group. Oh, this is his advice, Steve. So start a Discord group, start a reading group. Sure, we got a link. Sorry, can't. Matt's beard is outstanding. Well, listen, guys, there we go. Listen, thank you so much for your support tonight. That was Cosette, thank you very much for joining us. It is a friendly place, this, and nothing's off the table. We came under attack tonight by some kind of Nazi bot. So it's, I don't know what we'll have. I've reported and shut it all down, hopefully. So it's not a great way for somebody to get an introduction to the channel. But hopefully we'll not see any of that kind of nonsense again. And there we go. So Matt Spears. Oh, he's done a second one called the Missionaries of Iraq. Excellent. I must check that out. Thanks for that, Karen. Well, listen, folks. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us all, as usual. And we'll be back tomorrow with the longest episode. So it's Paul Atreides as the hero. It's just short of an hour, so we'll run the video, and hopefully then at about probably just before 11 before we live stream after that. Lots to talk about. So we'll see you all then, guys. Have a very good night, and take care of yourselves and look after each other, okay? All the very best now. Good night. Take care. Cosette says, thank you. It's a friendly place, and I will be back. Thank you, Cosette. Night dog, folks. I'll always try to answer all the questions. Take care now, and very good night. I won't be it. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Bye.